Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Way is in Training. This is a podcast exploring how warriors should train and fight, as well as how they should live. We will talk about technique, but we'll also dive deep into fitness, mindset, and strategy. We will explore leadership and philosophy as well. So whether you are a young soldier, a veteran police officer, a responsible armed citizen, or simply someone looking for an authentic life, let's examine how the lessons of combat and preparation for it can help us fulfill our potential. Let's explore the way together and learn how the discipline of training can show us our true selves amidst the chaos of life.
Hey everybody, welcome back. In this episode, I've got Steve Anderson, who is a huge name in the competitive shooting instructional world, especially when it comes to dryfire and mental management. He was the author of the original dryfire books. I've got mine sitting on my shelf. And he is a devotee of the mental management system, which is what I want to kind of dig deep on him, with him, into today. So, but real quick, Steve, why don't you let everybody know a little bit about yourself and your background, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. You want it in 30 seconds, 3 minutes, or 30 minutes?
Let's not do 30 because that'll eat up half our podcast, but a
Let's
good enough amount that you can kind of give it.
Yeah. So basically, I was very similar to Laney Basham. I grew up and I was not good at sports. And so I was kind of not the worst player on the team, but kind of in that area. But I got hooked on music very early. Van Halen was my drug of choice. And I learned to play the electric guitar and got really, really good at it. And made my first album when I was 15. The band is called Slam Circus. And you can see it in the Anderson Shooting YouTube channel. You can find my music. And I promise I'm going somewhere with this. So if you remember, you look like you might be around my age. Do you remember when Nirvana came out and all the hair bands disappeared?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we were entertaining 3 record deals when that happened. And it all vanished in one day. And so I went to work at record stores. You remember record stores, UCD stores?
I do. They were usually in the strip mall by the Blockbuster video store.
Yep, that's what I did. I was behind the counter. At one time, our company owned 50 of those, and we were making money like we just thought it was never going to end. And one day, very close to Christmas, a young man came in with his girlfriend, and the girlfriend had some stuff to sell to us because we bought CDs from people. It was usually like weed money and beer money, it was kind of not shady, but like everybody knew what was going on,
Yeah.
I just, hey, I need $50. Here's some CDs, right? For whatever, whatever you need $50 for. So this young man walks in and he meanders around the store. And as he goes to leave, he sets off the alarm. Remember the old school Sensormatic where there's like 2 of these, beep, 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 right? So he sets it off. And I said, so I was like the only white person in this zip code. Okay. It's a very, very black neighborhood. Just telling you this for the facts. Okay. So here's this white guy challenging this black guy that the alarm is going off. And I said, hey, sir, would you mind telling me why my alarm's going off? And he goes, I don't know why your alarm's going off. And I said, well, it didn't go off when you came in and it's going off now. So something has happened to cause you to set off my security alarm. He goes, I don't know. I said, well, let's think about it. And I'm very respectful. Okay. So he thinks about it for a little while, and then he pulls a K-bar knife out and he points it at me. And I said, wow, that's a nice knife, but it's not going to set off my alarm. Like I wasn't scared because he was just showing me the knife. Right. And then he picks it up and he took a swing at me this way and a swing at me that way. And missed me both times. And then I turned into Gumby, like you ever see Bugs Bunny or a cartoon character like they change shapes to avoid the cannonball,
Yeah, our Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah, well, I am Mr. Anderson, so I'm the one, so I can do that. So it'll be a pleasure watching you die, Mr. Anderson. So I chased him out. I called the cops. The cops picked him up. They brought him back, and they said, well, what did he steal? I said, I don't know. He set the alarm off. This guy's got a trunk full of CDs, And the police officer said to me, I need you to make up what he stole so I can charge him with armed robbery. I said, I don't know what he stole. He tried to kill me. Right. And I had the whole thing on video and I was incredulous. And I am not going to make up something that he stole after a guy tries to kill me. Like, I think that's enough. Right. So the guy does 28 days of a 6-month sentence for aggravated menacing. And he gets out of jail. And the prosecutor called me and said, hey, I want you to know this guy's out of jail. I said, great. What should I do? I've got this pink piece of paper that says you can't come to my store. I don't think that's a great weapon. He goes, well, have you thought about getting a gun? And I was like, no. For a couple of reasons. I was raised non-gun. My dad was the minister of music at the big Baptist church. There was no need for self-defense of any kind. We weren't hunters. We weren't target shooters. Although I did find out that my dad was on the rifle team in college after he wasn't on it after he died. After he died, I found out that he was on the college rifle team. And I actually have his competition rifle, which is super cool. So I got a gun. And I went and got a Smith & Wesson 5906, which those are kind of cool guns. And like, if you think about the whole double action steel gun, like those are cool guns. I learned how to shoot. And I approached it as an instrument. That's one thing that sets me apart from a lot of other people that are in this industry. I remember I was raised non-gun. So to me, this is a tool with which to do a thing. Like, this isn't a weapon to me. There's no mystique to it. It's just a tool, right? And I'll never forget two things. I'll never forget trying to figure out, okay, why do I have to rack it? Like, what's going on here? Like, I literally didn't know. I did not know that I was cycling the slide for the first time. I just knew that I had to do that first, right? And then I'll never forget, this one doesn't have it. So like my roommate, there are literally 100 handguns. You want to see a SIG 210 custom shop? You want to see a Kunin 357 Magnum semi-auto?
Yes, I definitely want to see that. That is a piece of history right there.
Kunin 357. This gun might be for sale, so if anybody's interested in this, it will be for sale for the right price. It's not mine, but it might be for sale for the right price. I'm trying to find a decocker. Let's see. Oh, this might be one. Perfect. Okay, so I've got my Smith & Wesson 5906, and I'm in my study, and I'm reading about the decocker. I'm going, oh dear God! Oh, thank goodness, because I was so convinced, right, that this, right. So I decided to go to the range to be proficient. Now I'm a new gun owner, and I'm a new gun owner, and I'm currently firing 200 rounds of 9mm a week. I'm not competing. I'm not anything but a new gun owner, right? And I'm shooting 200 rounds a week, and I get bored of shooting on paper. So the range I was at, they sold soda cans on a string for $0.25. And reactive targets are so much more fun. All right. So now I'm shooting 200 rounds of 9mm at a pop can on a string at 25 yards. And then I decide the ammo costs are getting out of hand. So I decide to buy a 22. Now, you know what happens when you buy a 22. You just shoot more. So now, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the cheaper the ammo is, the more of them you fire.
Right. So now I'm shooting 200 rounds of 9mm per week and 500 rounds of 20. Now I'm now shooting 700 rounds a week at a pop can on a string at 25 yards. Like, that's my training schedule. And I just bought a gun. Right. So one night I noticed they had this thing called a bowling pin competition. And I was like, this looks like fun. So by that time I'd switched to a Beretta 92. Because I rented a Taurus at a gun store once and I shot it better. And we can go into why I shot it better. I shot it better because I paid more attention to fundamentals with a new gun. That's why I shot it better. But it doesn't matter. So I go to the match with my Beretta 92, and I came in second place at my very first match. Because remember, my practice is a pop can on a string at 25 yards. These are bowling pins at 21 feet. Like, I'm shooting at elephants over here, right? It was so easy. And the guy that beat me was a Columbus, Ohio SWAT cop. And he beat me because he hit his first shot and I didn't. And so I thought, okay, if I can hit my first shot, I can beat this guy. So my very first ever dry fire drill was I took a bowling pin and I Xeroxed it and I put it on the wall. And I practiced from low ready to bowling pin every night for 30 minutes. Okay, that was literally the first dry fire drill I ever did. And so I started beating this guy. So now I'm winning my bowling pin match. This is great. And the guys at the bowling pin match said, hey, if you like this, you should try Steel Challenge. I said, what's Steel Challenge? And they said, be here at this time and we'll do it. And I bought, do you know what a Yaki slide is? Yeah,
Yes.
Yaki slide holster. So I bought a Yaki slide holster at the gun store and I went to the Steel Challenge match. Right. And it was awesome.
Those were very stylish in the 80s, the Yaki slide.
Well,
they were elegant.
That's what they sold me, because the idea is take the gun out, you're not wearing a holster anymore, So and maybe you can tell me this. I'll continue my story in a minute. But do police officers still think no holster equals likely to be a bad guy, holster equals likely to be a good guy? Like, is that still a thing?
To a large degree, yes, because it's still to a very large degree true.
Yep, I would imagine. Yeah, bad have holsters, typically speaking. Okay. So
if the bad guy has a holster, he's probably a very competent bad guy, which can be a very bad day.
Right. Yeah. Which I have so many questions about that, but we'll get to that later. So I did really well at my first Steel Challenge match. Loved it. And they said, hey, if you like that, you should come try IPSC. USPSA hadn't split out yet, at least not officially, so it was still IPSC. I said, what's IPSC? They said, come back next Saturday at 8 o'clock and we'll show you. I'm like, this is great. I'm having so much fun. On my very first stage, I shot every target twice, including every single no-shoot. Every single one. So if anybody goes to a match and doesn't shoot every no-shoot twice, you had a better first stage than Steve Anderson, because that's what I did. So I kept going. And so now I'm shooting bowling pins, Steel Challenge, and IPSC. And then I find another IPSC. So now I'm shooting 4 matches a month. Okay. And then I got this card in the mail one day that said A class. And I took it to my mentor and I said, what is this? He goes, oh, that's from USPSA. You're an A class shooter. I said, is that good? He goes, yeah, it's very good. I said, is there anything above that? He goes, yeah, master. Well, what's above that? Grandmaster. Is that as high as you can go? Yeah, but you can't do it. Why can't I do it? Oh, because you're not a professional shooter. Only professional shooters can make Grandmaster. I said, why? Like, what's the difference? And he goes, well, just nobody does. So I said, I'm going to be a Grandmaster. And then my buddy Kyle Ferris, who, if anybody is still on the Brian Enos forums, do your people ever go there?
I still check it out every once in a while. I'm a huge fan of Brian's writings.
Oh, yeah.
The forums are kind of dying, though. Like, it's...
Well, once the FUDs move in, it's over, But have you seen Flex Money on there?
Yes, I have.
So Flex Money is my buddy Kyle Ferris. He sold me an open gun, right? He and I were posting about our Steel Challenge match, and we realized we were at the same match. We should shoot together next time. And so we joined up, and we were shooting buddies for many, many years. Shooting buddies, drinking buddies, all the buddies. We were buddies. And then so now I have this used Caspian open gun, which was obsolete when it was made. And this thing's 10 years old. And paras are big and STI's just starting to come out. And I've got this Caspian open gun. And this was during the Clinton mag ban, so you can't buy mags for it. Right. So magazines cost me $150 and a big stick was $500 because you had to get 2 donor mags and then find somebody to weld them together. Oh. But I came up with these dry fire drills. Oh, because the same guy that invited me to all these matches, after my first Steel Challenge match, he said, you're pretty good, but your draw needs work. I said, well, how do I do that? He goes, you want to dry fire. And those words on that day, Matt, changed the sport. If that guy now somebody else would have done it for sure. But those words, hey, some dry fire might help. Think about how many lives that's changed. That sentence, And then you take something like that, you think about the things that we say to people throughout the course of our day. Like we could say something today that could change somebody's life. It's really kind of weird when you think about it. So I had these I had these 12 dry fire drills I was doing because all I cared about was making Grandmaster. And I will freely admit that standing still dry firing does not make you a very well-rounded USPSA competitor, but that wasn't my goal. All I cared about was making Grandmaster because that was my record deal. See, I didn't even know it at the time, but I had to be stamped like Anderson, bam, you're good. I'd never had that my entire life. I'd never won anything. I'd never achieved any rank of any kind. So for me, the Grandmaster card, it's not like a credit card when you say it that way. My Grandmaster status was my record deal.
Weren't you the first one in Ohio to make it?
I was.
Thought so.
Mm-hmm. And it happened 9 months. Well, at the range we trained together, I made Grandmaster at Rayner's Range on my 30th birthday. The other interesting thing that happened was I sharded right before the match. So I literally had to shoot the entire match having sharded in the parking lot of the gas station prior to the match. So it was a gritty day, but I did it. And I did it on my birthday, on my 30th birthday.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of unknowingly codified my 3 modes of practice during that, but we can come back to that if you would like to.
I would like to touch on that. Because that's influenced, and there's variations on it and people have expanded on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like that still influences my daily practice today.
Mm-hmm.
It's those different modes of practice. And I've got some other tweaks and stuff. I think everybody does, we all kind of make everything our own, but that idea of divorcing one set of outcomes from another so you can work on one particular element of your shooting. I think it's huge.
Yep.
And I think that's it's such a big key to making improvements. The ability to say, okay, like today was a pure speed mode day for me in my dry practice.
Yep.
And all I cared about was seeing if I missed. I didn't care if I missed. I just cared about seeing if I missed and why.
Oh, there's so much going on there. Like with the 3 modes of practice, I did not realize how much I was protecting my self-image in that. So most people, let's say draw the first shot at 7 yards, okay? And a guy's at 120, we'll call it an alpha for just so we all know what we're talking about. He could shoot an alpha in 120, but he wants to go faster, okay? So he does whatever he's going to do, right? And now he's got a Charlie at 89, and he's pissed, right? I did all that work, and all I got was a Charlie. Well, he'll stay if he has that reaction, and he'll go back to a 120 alpha, and now he's even madder, right? So now he's all pissed off because he took 0.3 off his 0.29, whatever you want to call it. He cut 3/10 off his presentation, and he's mad because he got a Charlie. He's pissed, right? So that guy says, if I draw fast, I'm gonna be sloppy. This is dumb. This doesn't work. And he'll go back and forth between, let's call it fast and sloppy, slow and accurate for his entire career. It's not necessary.
And you see that even more so like in law enforcement and military and like the defensive circles.
Yep.
Like I would say that's even more prevalent than like, the USPSA guy trying to come up in competition.
Sure.
Because there's such a stigma, and it's gotten so much better in like the last 5 years. Like there's been huge strides in this in the last 5 years, but it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
This stigma against missing even in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And missing, I'm taking in like a broader sense. It could just be like, not an optimal hit. Doesn't have to be missing the target, but just a sloppy hit.
Right.
And I think when people don't give themselves permission to fail, they're going to wind up getting stuck in that cycle of where they do like the sine wave thing, right? Like they make a little improvement and they drop back down because now they're afraid of the outcome they're getting when they made the improvement.
So let's go one step further. What if it wasn't failure?
Yeah.
You said permission to fail. What if we remove that word entirely?
No, I like that. And I think I'm going to steal that if you don't mind.
Because
I've been saying permission to fail, but really if you're learning, it's not a failure because the desired outcome is learning.
Right. That would be what I call an unintentional negative imprint. And I would imagine that you are around so many type A people that their underwear should be inspected for diamonds on a regular basis. right? And type A, here's the interesting thing about type A. If you give type A one objective, they will die before they fail. However, if you give them two objectives, they will fail at one of them, right? My favorite example is the mayor's house is on fire, and he calls the fire department and says, hey, get my kids out of there, but please don't break any doors down and try not to damage the furniture because it's a small fire. Well, type A is going to destroy everything in his path to get those children and say, here are your kids. You know what I mean? They're F the furniture, right? We don't even care. We're knocking down doors. We are going to die. And that person will die before he lets those children perish. Right. And that goes back to why you had more success in the tactical world than the competition world. And we can do that now or we can do it later, but the answer is obvious.
Let's go ahead and do it now, if you don't mind. I'd love to hear it because I have my own thoughts on it, and it's something I've been working on really hard the last couple of years.
Sure.
And I probably shouldn't even phrase it that way because working really hard on it implies probably the wrong thing. But I'll ask you about that after.
Well, so let's try to let go of right and wrong. Okay? Because right and wrong is always going to create a negative imprint. Always.
Okay.
Now, there are things that are right and there are things that are wrong, but like, for example, it's wrong to put diesel in a gas car. Like, that's wrong. You know what I mean? But in the world of shooting, my favorite example, do you know who Albert King is, the blues guitar player?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So Albert King took a right-handed guitar and played it upside down.
Yeah.
Is he wrong?
Not the way he played it, he's not.
Right. That's exactly right. So let's say somebody's using, so Taron Butler can hip shoot a plate rack. And I can't remember whether he beat Bob Vogel or not, right?
I think they went back and forth, to
be
honest.
Taron Butler wrong? I mean, according to everything we know about shooting, that's wrong. Okay? Now, that's kind of an extreme example, but yes, there are things that are right and there are wrong. But one of the things that is happening in the industry right now is the old two shots on one sight picture demon is back. And anytime sales get low of gadgets, the old two shots on one sight picture guy comes back and says, oh, if you buy this, you can get two shots on one sight picture. If you come to my class and learn my 12% pinky grip, you too can do doubles drills and get two shots on one sight picture, right? But here's my point. If something is working, it can't be wrong. Now, that doesn't mean that it could be better. It doesn't mean it couldn't be better, right? But I worked with a guy once. I worked with a 78-year-old man every other magazine was a different direction. So it was bullets this way, bullets that way, bullets this way, bullets that way. That's wrong. But I didn't even notice it until the end of the second day.
Because he could do it.
Right. So let's try to let go of right and wrong. Now the mental game does have right and wrong. But please go back to what you were saying. We were talking about, okay, so this is hard for a guy in your position to admit, but were you more anxious in competition than you were in, what do you call them, operations or missions? What should we call them?
Absolutely. And I'm not shy about saying that at all. I actually say it a lot in my classes because one of the things I try to do in my classes is get law enforcement and military and defensive shooters to do more competition as a training paradigm. Right? And I'll tell them all flat out that I have never been as nervous in a gunfight as I am in a match, even a local match.
So let me just tell you this while we're on the air. I would absolutely love the opportunity to help your people get started in competition because I really want to do more work in that world and I would love to help them bridge the gap and I can save them years and years and years of struggle. Okay. So the reason that you were less nervous on a mission is because you pre-accepted the results. And that means one of two things. You knew you were either going to be successful or die trying. And if I'm wrong, please, why are there balloons behind me? Did you?
Google does weird stuff. Like sometimes, if I give you a thumbs up, it'll probably It did it the other day. There we go. See? Thumbs up popped up. Yeah, I don't know. It's a Google thing.
Where do I get the skimpily dressed chorus line? How do we get the Rockettes that back there behind me?
I don't know, but when you hack that code, let me know, because I'll do it every podcast.
So you pre-accepted the results. You're either going to be successful, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. I would assume, depending on the mission, we are going to be successful or die trying. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that means you pre-accepted the results. You knew what was going to happen, and you were okay with it. And you make that decision long before the day of the mission, right? That's a decision you guys make before you even put the gun on the belt, right? Like you already made the decision.
I probably made that decision in high school.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah,
that's my point. So in competition, the reason it's different is you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And you were focused on the outcome. So the last time I talked to Lanny Basham, he said something new. He said, the score is always a variable. Therefore, it is the wrong thing to focus on. Now, how brilliant is that?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And then he said, the process is never variable. Therefore, it is the correct thing to think about. I mean, that's mind blown. Let loose the balloons. I mean, that's a mic drop right there from an 80-year-old man. And by the way, he did not invent mental management. He discovered it. He discovered it. So and the other thing, in your operating world, you did something really cool. You turned anxiety into strategy. In the competition world, you either didn't do that or maybe you didn't know how to do it. Right? So let's say I'm a knuckle dragger, I'm a door kicker, and I've got this new baby that's just been born, or I've got a new wife. Okay. Like, I'm okay with dying, but maybe not today. Right. So what that guy's going to do is he's going to turn that desire to get home safe into a strategy of things he can control. Okay. Yeah. He might call for an extra unit. He might call for backup. He might wait till backup arrives, whereas a Death Wish guy might not wait for backup. You know what I mean? Like, there's things he can do to mitigate his risk. Okay. And that's turning anxiety into strategy. In the competition world, we do the same thing. But a lot of this goes back to there are so many misconceptions and problems in the competition world, and I'm the only one talking about them. And I love that, because a lot of these other trainers, they think I'm nuts. Like, one of them wants to fight me in the parking lot. He thinks I'm so nuts, right? So here's the two biggest problems. Number one, when you are shooting for score, the conscious control of speed is always going to be an error. And you know this. If you go up to a close draw, I need a really fast draw, that draw's going to suck. It's going to be okay. And you got to slow down for this one. Well, slowing down is dumb. Like, why would you ever slow down? It's dumb. And then, so the conscious control of speed. Now, in training, you have to. In training, you have to go fast to learn what going fast feels like.
Yeah, to do like overspeed training, so you learn to operate at that higher. By operate, I mean function the gun.
Dude,
at that higher level of speed. Yeah,
of course. And on that point, going back to our draw example, if a guy's never fired a shot out of the holster in under a second, the first one's probably not going to be an alpha, and that's okay. That is okay. I have only ever had one person in my class fail to fire a shot in under a second out of the holster. Only one in 10 years. And that's because they felt like it was unsafe and didn't want to do it. Everybody else did it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. But what you can't do is require an alpha in under a second in 5 minutes. Just about anybody can fire a safe shot out of the holster in under a second. Just about anybody, right? But if they insist on an alpha, that's when they get pissed off. And that brings me to the second biggest problem in shooting, which is negative imprints during training. Okay, so imprints are thoughts of ability. Okay, they're things I can do or things that I can't do, things I'm good at, things I'm not good at. And when you have negative thoughts of ability during training, those thoughts go in your ammo box. And then those thoughts go in your magazine. And then those thoughts come out of your gun when you pull the trigger. It's, I can't, I didn't, I'm not good enough.
So I have a question there, and both for me personally, because I've struggled with this, and I'm sure for a lot of people, right? Because I'm often aware that I've done that. I've thought about something the wrong way, and I know I did it, and now it's in there. And I find this happening at matches, especially, where like I'll have that thought, like I'm like, and then I know I shouldn't have it, and I want to let it go, but it has to be. You have to let it go. You can't get rid of it. You can't like push it out, right?
Okay.
How do I do that? How do I let it go in the moment like that?
Okay, you can't let it go. It's not possible, but you can replace it.
Okay.
Right. So check this out. In the last 30 days, let's go 45. I've lost 25 pounds and quit smoking in the last 45 days, 45 days. So
Nice.
people say to me, oh yeah, I'm sure I look a little different than the last time you saw me. Right. You can call it the divorce diet if you want to. I call it pay value. Okay. So like happily married people have very little pay value in becoming more attractive because their lives not going to change. But somebody who's newly single at the age of 52, he's got pay value in being more attractive because not only does he have, lack of a better word, stiffer competition, right? I mean, I'm sorry, I cracked myself up with that one. A 52-year-old single man has a little bit stiffer competition.
I am embarrassed by the fact that it took me a second for that to register, and then when it did, it got me good. Yeah.
But so it's just pay value. And the smoking thing, right? I was a relatively light smoker, less than a pack a day. I thought that was a 20-year problem. I didn't think that was a 20-day problem. And then I got my third deep vein thrombosis. Okay. And I paid for my smoking with this, the massive swelling of my foot caused by the blood clot that almost killed me for the third time. So now it's been explained to me that if I continue to smoke, I am going to get, I'm going to keep getting deep vein thromboses and I'm going to die. So guess who quit smoking in one day? This guy, right? Now, 2 years ago, when I was in this really narcissistic, toxic marriage, I'd be like, good, bring it on. Maybe it'll be today. That's awesome. I'm going to go for a jog with my deep vein thrombosis, right? Because I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live. And then it was pointed out to me that killing yourself slowly is still killing yourself. And that really hit home for me. Okay. And do you know who Joey Sauerland is?
Sauerland?
Yeah, Sauerland. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took him from new shooter to national champion in 2 years. Okay.
He's a very impressive shooter. Like hey, you did it again. You got the balloons again.
And a very fit athlete as well. He said something to me very profound. He said, Steve, you are taking better care of your truck than you are of your body. Why is that? And that was pretty perfect. Right?
You know, something that, because I'm in my late 50s now, and it's been a high mileage life. They did a study and they figured out that every 1 year you're operational, especially back in the old days with the kit we wore then, the heavy kit, is 5 years on your joints.
Oh, wow.
So I did 18 to 51. So I've got a couple of old injuries and some wear and tear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized late in life, and I wish I'd realized it earlier, is kind of a segue, but I think it kind of applies to what we're talking about.
Is it the two-wheel self-balancing scooter, or is it like a transition to a different topic?
Transition to a different topic. Yeah. I hate those things. I can't stand those.
I think they're kind of over. You don't see them much anymore.
No. We actually had them. I mean, I never had one, but there were people that actually had those on the Chicago Police Department as an official vehicle for downtown. Wow. It was like the least policey thing ever.
I would think so.
Yeah. But no, anyway, what I was getting at is like, I always cared about being in really good shape, right? But then I realized what I actually cared about was performance for my job, not long-term health for myself.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And there's a difference there, right? And if I had realized that I needed to prioritize that as well when I was younger, I wouldn't have some of the joint issues I have now. And like that kind of, I think, ties into kind of what you're saying in a way. You know what I mean?
Well, so men in general, we are like, we are going to be successful today and we don't really care about tomorrow. So we carry more concrete than we should when we're working. We overload our pickup trucks. We do dumb man things. And some of that's necessary. But, I have achieved the weight loss and muscle gain that I've achieved was incredibly easy and simple to do. And from a mental standpoint, it one of the easiest things I've ever done. And quitting smoking, everybody said, "How's it going?" And I said, "I'm not quitting smoking. I have quit smoking." That's what mental management does for you.
I was just about to say that way of framing it sounds very powerful to me. You know what I mean? Like you're saying it's been done. It's already done.
Like even Laney Basham, right? I was talking to Laney Basham on the phone. And I said, "Hey, Lanny, I know you're going to be so proud of me. I quit smoking." And he goes, "I'm super proud of you. And if you can make it 2 weeks, you'll make it the rest of your life." I said, "Lanny, I didn't tell you I'm quitting smoking. That implies the possibility of failure. I'm telling you that I have quit smoking. I'm done." So, we live by rules. Okay. So I'm guessing, Matt, that you do not shoot heroin into your veins. Is that a valid guess?
That's a valid guess. I would say that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
So guess what? Me smoking cigarettes is the same as you not putting heroin into your veins. Like that's not a thing that we do. Right? I'm guessing that you don't punch little old ladies in the face when you see them. So we have a rule. Don't do that. Yeah. Okay. I have a rule that says I don't eat until 5 p.m. They're the same rule. Like I'm no more likely to eat before 5 than to punch an old lady in the face. Now, if she's got a cigarette and a sandwich, I might consider it. But anyway, so in mental management and what you do is you create new rules because we're all already living by rules. All we have to do is change the rule. And changing the rule requires pay value. And the reason people can't change the rule is they don't have enough pay value. And pay value can't be faked, and it can't belong to somebody else. Okay. So have you ever been in a relationship where a woman gave you a rule to live by that you didn't like?
The relationship never lasted long after that, but yes.
Right. So like at the end of my marriage, my wife did some things that were bad, and I chose to cope with that by drinking too much. And when I would drink too much, I call it vomiting the shit sandwiches that she's forced me to eat. Like I can eat those sandwiches, but I can't keep them down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I call them micro resentments. Like I can do this, but I can't do it forever.
Right.
And then when I would drink, the resentment would come out. And so when that happens, the woman calls it a drinking problem. And yes, that is part of the problem. But the real problem is the unresolved resentment. Okay. So she created all these rules. Okay. First, it was no hard liquor. Okay. No problem. Then it was no drinking at home, but you can drink on the road. Right. And so I'm obeying all these rules. I'm just getting madder and madder and madder. She did not provide me pay value for following those rules. Okay. The only pay value is not getting divorced. And I'm thinking, is that really pay value way this is going? Now, a woman can be very creative with pay value, right? If she had said, for every day you don't drink alcohol, I will make sure you have an amazing evening. That would have worked really well.
Yeah.
Like who doesn't want that? That'd be awesome. But the pay value has to be real. And then you can do anything. And I'll prove it to you. You ever see a single mom hold down 3 jobs?
Oh yeah.
Pay value.
Well, like I'll go back to my previous life, right? Like the selection process for special forces is a lot of people fail.
Sure.
Like it's very selective, right? And I discovered because I'm the kind of guy that, like, when I'm setting out to do something, I research everything I can about it, right? So I read all the books and I'm old, so these were all the books from like the Vietnam era SF guys. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
This is before the Gulf War, you know. And I discovered that if you died in training, they still gave you the Green Beret.
Oh.
And at that point, I knew I was good. Like, it sounds funny, but like I was like, okay, I've got this, because one way or another, like, they're gonna have to kill me, because if they kill me, I've won anyway.
Dude, so there's two really important things that just happened there. Number one, again, you pre-accepted the results. The outcome was not in question. You were in control of the outcome. Okay. And number two, you decided to be successful. I bet you've held a lot of timers for a lot of shooters, haven't you?
I'm sorry, say it again.
I bet you've held the timer behind a lot of shooters.
Oh yeah. Probably over 1,000. I'm sure, probably thousands.
Same. Can't you tell by their body language how this is getting ready to go?
Oh yeah.
Right? When they decide to be successful, whatever that means, they hold their bodies a little bit differently. Now, in competition, the duality of the scoring means a certain kind of person will never be successful, because they can have an accurate run that's slow, and that's failure. And then they can have a fast run that's sloppy, and that's failure. And these are the negative imprints that create the anxiety over the outcome, because then they feel like they have to choose, right? And they don't like either choice, right? That's like, you want to be kicked in the nuts or punched in the face. Well, do I have to choose? I mean, is there a third that involves balloons behind me? Because that sounds a lot nicer, Yeah. But, and again, you said it earlier, if we can, and I don't know the right way to say this, maybe you can help me. Do we need to divorce accuracy and speed, or do we need to merge them? All I'm saying is they're not mutually exclusive.
And this is informed by you, to be honest, right? The stuff I've read in your books and everything, because yours were the first books I bought as a USPSA guy. I'd been shooting a long time as a soldier and as a cop, but I hadn't been performance shooting, I think is the current buzzword, right? I actually know it's the current buzzword.
Like, soldiers and cops don't need to perform, right? You gotta be good. When you go over here, you gotta be good.
Yeah, but that's the current buzzword, performance shooting, right? Shooting like a competitor is what it really means. But so I think of accuracy and speed when it comes to the problem of shooting, whether you're talking about tactically or in a match, or even things as disparate as like bullseye or, Olympic pistol, right? All the way down to, 3-gun style shooting where one A zone and you're good, right? You know what I mean? Like the opposite ends of speed and accuracy, right? It's not, I don't think, one or the other. I think it's a spectrum. Like, it's not a toggle switch, it's a rheostat.
Okay. Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah. I love that, actually.
Because it's how much do I need of each one for a successful outcome with the parameters of the problem I've been given.
Ooh, that's even better. Man, listen to those big words. That's outstanding. Yeah.
And like I said, that's to a large degree, like my original kind of journey down that thought rabbit hole came from your stuff about speed mode and accuracy mode, right? And match mode, like those 3 different modes.
Yep.
And I still use those terms when I log my training sessions, or I do like my after action log for a match. I'm still using those 3 terms still get used all the time.
Well,
like today was a speed mode day for me in dryfire. And actually in virtual fire, that ACE virtual reality thing I've been using.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that looks like a lot of fun.
Oh, now, it's dry fire with feedback, which is kind of cool. It's
now,
still dry fire.
My opinion is slightly controversial on that. Everybody wants to know. So for starters, I have been approached by every single dry fire gadget in the world to endorse their product.
I'm sure.
I have turned down every single one of them. and the one I want to endorse doesn't have any money. So I'm kind of screwed. I should have took up Cool Fire when they called me. The problem with Cool Fire is it recoils down and you got to charge it. So like, what are we doing here? You know, it's neat. And if you like gun movement, sure. You know, I have retired so many Cool Fire units and pissed off so many wives. Like the wife saves up and gets the husband the Cool Fire. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work.
So I tried all that stuff, right? Like I tried airsoft, I tried, you know, the laser cartridges, I tried all of that, and none of it seemed like the juice was worth the squeeze.
Nope.
The only one I've ever liked is Ace, because it's not really that kind of thing.
It makes
it
like a video.
Yeah. And it's like a simulator. It's like a flight simulator for shooters.
Okay. Now,
you know,
I love the idea of the Ace, and I'm not crazy about the term training scar, but I've only talked to one person that has developed a training scar, and that is because the triggers of the gun and the Ace were so dissimilar that it caused a problem in live fire.
And I could see that.
Yeah, I know they're going to solve that. Like they're going to have that solved in no time.
Well, they've got a whole like little aftermarket community now that's making like different sears with 3D printers. So I just messed around with my controller trigger until it felt very close to what I shoot. Yeah, and I shoot 1911s and 2011s, and the controller's a 2011, so it's very close.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic. I also think it's not necessary, but
I agree.
Yeah, and like I got a buddy, Scott Chapman. He's a single stack guy. I think he's in Vermont. He has told me numerous times, I hate to dry fire. I hate it. I was like, okay, do you hate to get better? He goes, no, you don't understand how much I hate dry fire. I said, fine, whatever. It's free country. He goes, I've got 250,000 rounds on my ASBR, and I'm shooting better than ever.
I'm at 800,000 now on it.
And you shoot 9mm?
Yeah.
How much? What's the cost of that ammo ballpark? Because I don't know what they cost per round.
So they actually in the virtual setup is like a little range hut, and they actually give you a counter for the rounds you fired and how much it would cost. I'm at $250,000 right now.
Yeah, and I am not ASBR I'm not anti-ASBR in any way. But
like you said, it's not necessary.
Right.
You know,
I think they have to have it.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to call your shots, or if you haven't seen that yet, I would suggest that your own gun is better in dry fire than the ASBR.
I think that you need, and I still do stuff with my own gun. Like, it's not like I don't, right? And I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. I think that in the beginning as a shooter, dry fire is hard to do right in general, because you don't know how to call your shots yet. You don't know what you should be seeing. What I mean?
Well, hang on though. What if we let go of right and wrong and say, what am I learning?
I said difficult, right? Like maybe it's a learning process, I guess.
You said we're going to do everything wrong. And I think that if we're learning, we're not doing anything wrong.
I completely, yes. I stand corrected.
No. Well, here's the deal. You weren't wrong. Right? You weren't wrong in saying that. That's your opinion. I'm just suggesting, what if we look at a world in which there doesn't have to be a right or a wrong? Like, so I've been divorced 3 times. Okay. And I am really interested in not being divorced ever again. Like, I don't want to go through this. Right. So one thing I'm learning so much about relationships. Like, everybody's so obsessed with being right and wrong. Well, what if we just have a different opinion? You know what I mean? That's okay.
And you actually just touched on something that, because there's so many things that, now I'm choosing how I say this very carefully so I don't get myself wrapped up again. So there are a lot of things that I try to say because I know I should say them that way. Like, I try not to say fast or slow when it comes to my shooting, because that's really a byproduct of what you're doing. and how you're doing it. It shouldn't be like the technique you choose for your sights, the technique you choose for your trigger. It's what makes the outcome faster or slower, not whether you're trying to go faster or slower, right? But it's so hard to never say, I need to go faster, or I need to go slower. Like, it's a hard thing to do.
It may not be wrong. Oh, well, so the only time it is wrong is shooting for score.
Yeah.
If you're shooting for score, the conscious control of speed is wrong. And I'll put that on the record. Because, okay, let's say, for example, you can't see anything that I can see. I'll just shoot myself on the screen. Okay. There we go. That's a good sight picture. I'm good to go. Why would I do that any faster or slower? Now I'll try to do it faster. Oh, that came out high. Oh, that won't work. I got to slow down. Oh, now it's too slow. What if I just take the gun from my lap and get a good sight picture? I'm done.
Yep. Well, and also I think that
hang on.
The brain.
Oh, thank gosh, didn't go off.
The brain, if you're in the right state for performance, whether we're talking about, operationally, like we were talking about earlier, or athletically, like in a sporting event.
Yep.
The right mental state is the same for both. It's that flow state, right?
Yeah.
And in that state, you cannot determine time.
Yes.
Because the whole reason they talk about how it feels timeless is because you're not thinking about time. So if I think about fast or slow, I've pulled myself out of that correct mental state right away.
That's brilliant. You're right. You'll never get there. You'll never get there. I think it's called tachypsychia is what they call it.
Yes. And classic things that they have, that's the only one that you'll still have no matter how well you're.
So you just went robot on me. Try that again.
So there's 3 things they say that will happen when you're in a gunfight.
Okay.
Right? You'll have the time slowing down feeling that we just talked about. You'll have auditory exclusion, and you'll have tunnel vision. I'm here to tell you that if you're well trained and experienced, you will have neither auditory exclusion nor tunnel vision.
Whoa. So you will hear the gun go off.
Yes. But if you're doing it right, you will always have that timeless feeling, because that is a positive thing. That means that I'm in that correct mental state. Like, I did a lot of martial arts when I was younger. I'm sure you can tell by the I love me wall behind me, right? But it's the same concept. They talk about, no mind or continuing mind in Japanese martial arts. Yep. That is the exact same as the flow state or being in the zone. It's just different words to describe the same thing, because it's the right mental state for peak performance.
Right. And I can tell you exactly how to get there every single time.
Please do.
Okay. So let's start with the opportunity. Okay. Let's say you resume. Are you currently competing?
Yes.
Okay. And you're going to go to the World Shoot, and you're in contention to win the law enforcement award. You're on the law enforcement super squad. It's stage 1, and you're scared to death. And you go, oh, I've got Anderson's number. I'm going to call him. Okay. And I'm going to say some things to you, and you tell me how helpful they are. Okay. So you've called me. Hey, Steve, I'm really freaking out. I say, get in the zone. Click. How do you feel? Have you been helped by that?
No.
Okay. I'm freaking out. Stage 1. Oh, no problem. Let it flow. Goodbye. You're just getting more pissed off, right? So
and I do this to myself all the time.
Well, I'm going to help you. It's so easy. Simple. See, so easy implies that you should have figured it out by yourself. The reason you haven't figured it out is because it's counterintuitively simple. Okay. But I'm going to prove to you how well it works here in a minute. So the problem with these things, the flow state, the zone, we think of them as happy accidents, right? And we're like, oh, I really hope I get in the zone today. Well, first thing we need to do is understand that the zone is more common in a reactive sport than a proactive sport. Okay.
Yeah, it was very common for me in my careers. Like, that was easy. It just happened all the time, like without fail.
You know why?
My theory is because of all the rehearsals
Sure, of course, but there's another reason.
Okay.
Number one, self-image and self-image alone allows access to subconscious skill, but it
Okay.
only allows access to your current level of skill, meaning self-image won't make you better than you are, but it can very easily make you worse than you are. Very
Right.
easily. Okay. For example, if you remember high school, you could talk to the nerdy girl, no problem, but you go talk to the super hottie, you can't form a sentence. That's because your confidence has eliminated your access to the English language. Like you can't even do it anymore. Okay. Does the same thing in shooting. Now, see, so the zone is nothing but subconscious. And in a reactive sport like basketball or tennis, you know you don't have to think, so you don't try. Okay. In shooting, you do have time to think, so you try. And let's talk about, let me see if I got this right. Most competition shooters tell me that they shoot their best when they're not thinking and they don't care. Would you agree with that?
Almost.
Okay, perfect. Tactical, you can't really not care, but you can change what you care about. Okay?
Yeah.
But what competition shooters don't do is understand and try to duplicate that environment. By the way, this is true for every sport. Gymnasts, not thinking, don't care. Auto drivers, not thinking, don't care. Okay. There's different degrees of not caring, but the generality is pretty good. Okay.
What I was going to say is it's not for me. I find that and I stole this from you. This is straight from you. When I give myself something to think about, it helps.
You did it. That's the thing. Okay. So if zero thoughts is the best and we can't get there on demand, because nobody can, like it's not possible. Okay. That's like saying go to the strip club and don't think about lady bits. Come on. It's just not possible. Okay.
I can't do that without going to the strip club.
Right. Right. Oh, and women have mastered this. Think about this for a second. We'll come back to the other thing. If a man is feeling romantic and the woman is not, she cannot stop that thought. But if she gives him a grocery list, she has given him something else to think about, which stops the thought. See, stopping the thought is impossible, but replacing the thought is possible. Okay. Dude, I went to go visit. So, like, I've been divorced officially since December. And my ex-sister-in-law said, "Hey, I really miss hanging out with you. Would you come hang out?" And I was teaching a class in Ohio, and I thought, you know what? I really miss these people. So I'm gonna go hang out with them. While I was there, I found out that my ex-wife euthanized my beloved Great Dane and didn't tell me.
Oh my God. Like my wife and I are dog people. That's like murder. I mean, that's homicide. Yeah.
So I left so I am not able to care for a Great Dane. So I very begrudgingly left the Great Dane in her care because I thought she would care for him. And I find out from my beloved niece that, yeah, they've had Rogue put down and just weren't going to tell me and lied to me about it as recently as a week ago. Okay. But here's my point. With mental management, you learn to change the imprint. And the imprint is your opinion of the idea. Okay. The imprint is your perception of what's just happened. And that can be changed. Okay. So I processed it. I blew snot on the floor and I went through all that. And then I thought, okay, this is an event that I cannot change. However, what I can choose to do is imprint the fact that this was her last piece of leverage over me, and now I'm completely free.
Yeah.
And he is in no danger of being mistreated ever again.
You're not changing the event, but you're reframing how you look at it.
Exactly right. And like for most wives, if most wives get in a minor traffic accident, the husband's going to say, "We have insurance and I'm so glad you're okay." Whereas the wife will say, "Oh, I'm an idiot, I crashed the car." You say, "I'm so glad you're okay." Same event, imprints.
Yeah.
And it takes a massive amount of retraining to think like that. A massive amount. And it depends on how you were raised. It depends on how old you are. It depends on all kinds of things. But you can start today by removing the word problem from your vocabulary and say opportunity. I don't have a trigger control problem. I have an opportunity to pull the trigger better.
I have a challenge. I have a chance to learn.
If you like that word, I don't like the word challenge, because to me, challenge implies it has to be hard. But if you like it, it's fine.
I like it just probably because of the life I've led. You know what I mean?
You're kind of a knuckle dragging meathead, so you love a challenge, right? I like opportunities, and that's why I like that word better. You know, like I had an argument with a very, very dear friend yesterday, and she and I argued viciously about something. And from the very moment I thought, this is an opportunity for us to learn how to argue without damaging our relationship. Like, this is awesome. And our argument was like the poster child for marriage counseling. We aren't married or anything short, but we literally, if there had been a professional arguing competition, like judged by psychologists, we'd have got the gold for sure.
You know, they did, and this is kind of a side note, right? But I think it matters. Not so much for shooting, obviously, but what we're talking about.
It's all the same stuff.
They did a study on couples that make it, and they don't argue any less than couples that don't make it. But they fight fair.
They might argue more.
They might, but they fight fair.
Yep. And on that topic, I think there's a few things that are important. Number one, if somebody's afraid of the other one leaving and they're afraid to stand up for themselves, then that's going to be a problem. That's where I was. I was afraid she would leave me, so I didn't stand up for myself. I just said, okay. Oh, and just 2 days ago, I learned something. So I'm 52 years old, and just yesterday, I learned that even if I make a mistake, I still deserve to be treated with respect. I did not know that until yesterday. Until yesterday, I thought if I make a mistake, I deserve whatever's coming to me. I learned that yesterday. And part of this is like this near-death experience that I had. So I almost died. I forgot to tell you that. I almost died, quit smoking, lost a bunch of weight. So I'm like a brand new man. Like, I'm on all, well, my foot's still messed up. But just to go back to shooting for a minute, I want to give you a little, well, you like challenges. So here's a challenge. Okay. You no longer have problems. You have challenges or opportunities. You no longer have weaknesses. You have solutions. Now, people want to fixate on the problem. This is the other problem in marriage, right? If you've ever had a bad marriage, I'm assuming you have, because I know a little bit about your situation. Yep. You probably got to a place where you talked about the problem or problems all the time. And when you talk about problems all the time, you become the problems. Like, you're the problems.
Yeah.
Instead, in marriage specifically, if the two people can come to a solution and talk about the solution, now we're made of solutions. But
that's still shooting too, though. That's everything. That's
why I brought it up. That's literally why I brought it up. Like, so my buddy who adopted me after I got rehomed, this is his room, obviously, and he's a steel challenge shooter. So just dig this. You're a steel challenge shooter and you're a guitar player, and now you've adopted Steve Anderson. I mean, what is this? This is outstanding, you know. So this would be like adopting a baby and finding out their biological parents are billionaires. Like, I just did really good here. So he's dry firing, and he's constantly over gripping the gun with his trigger hand. He's under gripping it here, and he's got all this tension, right? He's like, the flinch, and all I hear is flinch. And I said, Matt, why don't you grip the gun a little bit more with the support hand and pull the trigger gently? And he goes, but I got this flinch. And I said, I know. This is the first solution we're going to try. And I said, this is, instead of saying flinch, I want you to say tight support hand, gentle trigger. And everybody thinks they can outsmart mental management. Everybody. And it's about as likely as saying you can outsmart gravity. You can negotiate with gravity and you can get around it for a short period of time, but gravity is always going to win. Always. Okay. So now he says firm grip support. And I feel terrible for pointing. Doesn't that feel weird to point the gun at the screen when there's a human being on it? So weird. It's going to go through the bullet and kill Matt. It's going to go through the screen. So now we're thinking about gripping here and being gentle here. Now we have something to do instead of something to not do.
And I'll take it a step further, and I want to see what you think about this, because it doesn't really just stop there, I don't think.
Nope.
Like I find myself playing with exactly where the pad of my finger is on the trigger.
Oh, yeah.
Or just how much to grip with each hand and when to apply the pressure, because you don't want to be locked down all the time, right? And then also, like, I tend to be very, and I'm sure it's gotten much better since I trained with you, but I'm sure you remember me as being very, like, tense, like very, yeah.
Your at the time wife, I think that was your wife at the time.
She was, yes.
Every time you weren't around, she warned me about you. She's like, "Oh, he's going to do this. Gonna do this. You got to be ready. You got to do this. You got to do this." So
I was very, very like over aggressive, very physically tense, right?
Yep.
And the joke I always make is that I was trying to bend the universe to my will, because that works so well, right? But what I've discovered is that if I treat the tension, the physical tension, as a symptom of how well my mind is in the right state, it becomes a barometer for how well I'm doing up here.
Dude, that's awesome. That's really great.
So I use it as like, fuel gauge is the wrong word, but
no, I love that.
A gauge of some sort. Like, you know, the higher the tension is, the more I need to pay attention to what my mind is doing, because it's a symptom of the mental state, not a physical thing in and of itself.
Right. And what you're measuring is so tension is caused by the fear that we're not going to be successful. And in shooting, many times we can't be successful because we haven't defined it. Yeah. And all that tension is caused by, I need to do a thing. What is it? When? How do I do that? I don't know.
You know, and I've taken it like a step further, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this. So I've never been a guy that had super fast splits, and they're not really that important anyway. Like, you know, if you're getting under 0.2, it's fine. Right?
Splits are, so let's just I say it out loud. Chasing splits is dumb. Okay.
But I have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the ability to rip fast splits in training means that I am sufficiently relaxed, which means that my head is in the right place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I've been working on splits, not because I need fast splits, but because I think it's a great way to kind of give myself another check and balance to see how I'm doing with my mental state when I'm shooting.
That's exactly right. So trigger freeze is caused by tension in the firing hand. That tension is caused by desire to go fast. The easiest way to eliminate trigger freeze, it's always in a bill drill typically, is to take your trigger finger and tap on your other finger 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and count to 6 while you're doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll never get trigger freeze. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're probably slapping the trigger, you know. The problem with splits is, I don't know if, I'm not sure how much your people follow hit factor. Do your people know anything about hit factor?
It's gotten more common for people to understand it now because competition's gotten much more popular in law enforcement and military circles, which is a good thing, right? But it's still not the majority of people by any means.
All right, well, let's make it even easier, okay? Time plus scoring, IDPA, every I'd call it a Charlie, but a 1 is worth 1 second, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm shooting IDPA or time plus scoring, and my splits are at a 50, or let's say they're at a 30. And I want them to be at 25. Okay, well, that 500ths of a second just cost you a full second. So what are we doing here?
Yep. No, absolutely.
It's always the second shot. Always.
And like the guy I always think of when I talk about this is Eric Griffel. Because if you watch his training videos, he can pull splits in training on demand that are probably like, I mean, I haven't measured them, but I bet you they're 11s and 12s on demand.
Jailbait for sure. For sure.
But when you watch him in a match, he never does that.
Right. You're exactly. I'm so glad you noticed that. Now, I am not. This is just something I've noticed, and there's nothing in here about something I've noticed. We don't ever see the targets on those training videos. Okay, that's just an observation. Number two, is it in Eric Griffel's best interest for anybody that thinks they can beat him to assume he's ripping 11s on 15-yard partial swingers? Like, that's good for him. That sells classes and it scares people. So that's good for him. And I am in no way saying the hits aren't good. That's not what I'm saying. I've noticed the same thing you've noticed, is that in the matches, he doesn't do that.
Well, because number one, he doesn't need to. And number two, it's counterproductive. The risk is not worth the reward.
Correct. And he is the most brilliant mathematician in the history of IPSC shooting.
Yep. And another example I like. So did you see the Bill Drill world record that Isaac Lockwood did?
I was there.
Oh,
Are you talking about the video or at the match?
At the match. At the match.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second time they did it at Nationals.
Yep, I was there too.
And he got second place to who was it? Oh, really good shooter.
Some kid you've never heard of.
I know who he is now, but I didn't know who he was then, but I know who he is now.
In a class.
What I'm getting at though is they had a Bill Drill stage at that Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
How many people shot that stage in under 2 seconds?
I don't know.
I think it was just one, maybe two. And these people are all capable of shooting a Bill Drill well under 2 seconds on demand. But the risk was not worth the reward.
It's a 30-point stage.
Yeah. Why take a chance?
Right. So there's like 6 things going on there. Can I unpack all that?
Please do.
Number one, Phil Strader now has the record for the highest hit factor ever recorded at USPSA Nationals on that stage. So congratulations, Phil Strader. I don't remember. Number two, I think I might have been a grandmaster before I understood match points. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. Right. And so for the viewers watching USPSA, if Matt and I both shoot a stage, let's say there's 100 points available. Okay. If he has the high hit factor, he gets 100 points, regardless of how many alphas he shots. So just think of it as being graded on a curve. Okay. If he shoots it the best, he gets all 100 points. If my hit factor is 98% as good as his, I get 98 points. Okay. So that's how match points work. The problem with that Bill Drill stage is so everybody wants out of there with like 25 points or more. Okay. What we don't want is a mic, because a mic is a 15-point penalty. So now we've got 15 points on a 30-point stage. Okay. And then the other thing is those competitors are probably slowing down, which I suppose is a sound strategy. But we have to understand, anytime we're consciously controlling speed, by definition, we are not getting subconscious skill. So if you're shooting for score and you're consciously training, controlling your speed up or down, by definition, you are not getting access to subconscious skill, which means you're not getting access to your training.
Yep. Well, let's turn this around to my previous life and the people I tend to teach more often, right?
Love it.
So in body cam videos of law enforcement shootings, we see all the time people doing this panicked retreating Bill Drill.
Okay.
They're backing up and they're shooting 6 or more rounds as fast as they can pull the trigger, which is about 0.25 usually.
Yeah.
Because they're not trained like a USPSA competitor, right? The problem is that speed for them is redlined.
Okay.
It is not a controllable pace for their level of shooting skill, right?
Okay.
That we see it all the time, and a lot of trainers now try to train that retreating Bill Drill at that pace, trying to get people to do that well. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be able to do that well. That's not my point. But my point is that they should be exhibiting their current level of skill, not shooting at trigger speed instead of hitting speed, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. So let's start with my first question. Is the retreating bill drill the correct technique?
I would say usually no, but sometimes yes.
Okay. Well, so are we going to practice it, assuming that it is appropriate in some condition? Like, are we going to practice it?
Yeah, at times. There'll be times where it is appropriate, so you should be able to do it. Yes.
Okay, perfect. If that's the case, then we need to create a measurable standard for success.
Yeah.
Meaning there has to be great, okay, or needs work. Meaning it needs to be whatever the average distance is going to be to the target, the distance of retreat. We need to have we need to make it a classifier, basically. Is what we need
and it needs to be a metric. Yep.
Yeah. So you could create a retreating bill drill classifier, and you could solve this problem.
I actually kind of did for my applications class, but it's not retreating, it's advancing. And that's a whole nother topic. It's taken from a gunfight I was in Chicago. So if there's no cover available that you can get to before the other person has a chance of getting a shot off, this was about 10 yards away when I did this. To say 10 yards and in, and there's no cover available. And this is different than USPSA because now we're getting into the psychological aspects of fighting, right? If I'm backing up from that guy, am I making myself a harder target for him to hit? No. Psychologically, I look like I'm retreating. I look like I'm already mentally defeated. So I'm giving him confidence.
Okay.
Whereas if I aggress towards him in a controlled manner where I can still get optimal hits, if not acceptable hits on target, now psychologically, I'm doing a whole different thing to him. Now, very likely I can make him cave. It's like, you ever watch UFC, MMA?
A little bit. I like to watch the guys, so.
Yeah. So what happens when somebody gives their opponent their back in the ring? Usually it's over pretty quick after that, right?
In kind of surrendering?
Well, they're not intentionally surrendering, but when they're turned around facing away, there's so many things you can do to that guy when you're grappling.
Okay.
So backing up in a close range gunfight like that is mentally the equivalent of giving your opponent your back in the octagon in UFC.
Okay.
So I don't really like backing up unless there's a sound reason to do so. Like there's cover right there and you've got to back up to behind the cover, or there's a civilian you're trying to protect and trying to get them out of there. There are reasons to do it, but in general, I like being more aggressive rather than less aggressive because of the mental effect it has.
Perfect.
But that's a whole segue from what we're talking about. But
no, I love it. The first thing we need to do is make as many decisions ahead of time as we possibly can.
Oh yeah.
And that's because the conscious mind can only make one decision at a time. And if you've ever heard of paralysis by analysis or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
So the conscious mind can only do one thing at a time.
So I discovered this thing in sports psychology that they call chunking. Are you familiar with that?
Never heard of it. Let's hear it.
So chunking is basically making these Lego blocks of sets of skills.
Okay.
And you can assemble the Lego blocks to solve whatever problem you're given appropriately, right? And if you have those Lego blocks, these sections of skill at the subconscious competent level, now all you have to do consciously is make that tactical decision of this is what I'm seeing. This is what is going on. You have to recognize it. And then once you recognize it, your subconscious can assemble these elements of skill that you built in training to give you the outcome. But that only happens if you rehearse that in training. You've got to work through it ahead of time in training. You got to practice it.
So what you are saying is completely true. However, in my mind, it is so much simpler than that.
Let's hear it.
Well, it's the same thing. It's just a lot less words. Meaning what you are saying is brilliant and scientific. So my new best friend, Busse, she's the movement girl in USA. She reached out to me after my divorce to make sure I was okay as a human being because she knew I wasn't. Right. And so now we're like besties. And because we're both the best in our field, we have so much fun hanging out and talking about this stuff. She would say what you said, and she's not wrong. What I'm going to say is do a million reps and you're going to be there. But
Yeah.
what I've also learned is the reps have to have positive imprints. Meaning, she would rather study it scientifically. I'd rather put the rig on and just do it, and the result is the same.
I like to think of it, and I stole this from both my martial arts background and things like my wife's a yoga instructor, like these different kind of like Eastern disciplines and it sounds kind of esoteric, right? But mindful practice. Like,
okay, what does that mean?
That means that I'm mentally aware of what is happening when I do a rep in training.
What
like
is
when I talk to,
doing?
What I'm doing.
Okay.
And it's okay if the outcome is not my desired outcome, as long as I understand what happened. Even if I don't get why, I can figure out why if I know what's happening as a pattern. If I can see the pattern, I can suss that out, right?
Sure. Let's get this really specific, because you're right. That is esoteric. That's esoteric erotica. Like, that's a lot of words. Okay. We've got to draw a distinction between training and performing. We've got to.
Yes.
For example, if I'm going to play Smoke on the Water, I'm not trying to play it better than I could play it yesterday. But if I'm working on Joe Satriani, Always With Me, Always With You, I can't currently do that. So one is training, the other is performing.
Yes.
And we've got to make that distinction, because if I'm just dry firing to get it done, I'm going to be watching myself do it, and I'm not thinking about hardly anything. Okay. But I don't leave that hanging there. What am I thinking? Okay. All I'm doing is putting the dot in the middle of the target. But remember, at one time, I had a goal to do a sub 3 second L pres before I died. 0.8 turn and draw, 14 splits and transitions, 0.8 reload. It's doable with an open gun, but it's the absolute limit of human function. I can dry fire it, but I can't live fire it today. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that environment, I'm training. Okay. Training means it's gonna be ugly. There's gonna be miss. There's gonna be trigger freeze, because by definition, I've drug all that out of the subconscious so I can operate on it. Like, it's ugly. Because I'm not performing, I'm training. Okay?
Yeah.
Performing, go ahead.
So, and I think I stole this from you too. There's development of skill, and there's exhibiting your current level of skill.
So you didn't steal that from me, because those aren't my words, but we're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I just probably use different words, but I think I got it from you.
Yeah.
From something you said on your podcast.
And you have to know the difference. You have to. And that goes back to you've got to identify success before you start, because you will arrive at the range leaving and you've done this. Everybody will arrive at the range in the exact same condition they left last time, unless they're really good at controlling their thoughts and their imprints. What I mean by that is, if you leave the range happy, you're going to arrive happy, with all things considered. And if you leave pissed off, you're probably going to arrive pissed off, all things considered. What I'm suggesting is, let's create an environment where we always leave every drill happy. And that does not mean ignoring weaknesses, mistakes, or opportunities to get better. It means we identify a today goal or a 5-minute goal, and we reach it. And then we go to the next thing. Okay, well, I'm going to meet this goal today, and we reach it, and we move on. And I'm telling you, when you go to the range and you define success in a today way, not a forever way, but a today way, and you achieve success 4 times in a row, you're going to expect to be successful. And then you're going to go to competitions expecting to be successful. And the people that hear this say, "Oh, you're telling me to accept mediocrity." I said nothing of the sort. What I said is, identify a today goal and accept success. That's all I'm saying.
One of the ways I've been trying to frame it, because I'm about to turn 57 years old. I've had like 9 major surgeries. I have beat up my body for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. I am not going to physically be able to perform with the athletic ability I could in my 20s and 30s.
Agreed.
It's just not physically going to be possible, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I can do until the day I die? I can learn.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you something so powerful when your body's not cooperating that I want you and your listeners to try. Okay. If you are trying to improve a task that is physically demanding, like you can do it, but you want to be able to do it a little bit better. Okay. You can visualize as many mental reps as you want to in between physical attempts.
Yep.
Like the best example is if somebody's missing the reload. It's so weird. Oh, here's your Kunin 357 Magnum, by the way. What a cool prop. Okay. So this gun does not have much of a mag well. Okay. Very, very small mag well. Okay. But I want to be able to reload it faster. Okay. Good. So I'm just learning. I didn't make a mistake. I'm learning. Oh, that's going to be an issue. Okay, no problem. Okay, perfect. Now let's say I've been doing this for a half hour. My hands are getting tired. Okay, I can sit here and go, okay, what's that going to look like? Magwell, orange thing, opening. I'm not doing anything with my body. I'm just Magwell, orange. Okay, good. Okay, let's do it again. So see, that was unsuccessful. Okay, so let me visualize it again. Okay, here we go. I'm sure you heard about the putting study that was done, right?
Oh yeah. The brain cannot tell the difference between a sufficiently well visualized repetition and an actual physical repetition.
Well, let's be a little bit more specific. The self-image doesn't know the difference.
Gotcha.
Remember, self-image is your thoughts of ability. Everything in your world are things that you can do, things you can't do, things you do well, things you don't do well. Those are based on imprints, right? If you're a dog guy or a cat guy, that's because you have more positive imprints on dog interactions than you do on cat interactions. So you're more likely to own a cat than a dog. But if you're single, you meet a hot girl, she likes cats, guess who likes cats? Because of pay value. Now you have pay value. Well, so many jokes we could make there. Oh my goodness. We're gonna leave that one alone. Now you have pay value for liking cats. So it's easy to like cats. Okay. Everything comes back to pay value. And you've got to understand, this is something that I want to tell your crowd. Okay. We're gonna get some pushback on this, but I'm gonna tell them anyway. I would assume that you take a lot of people to the range and help them shoot, even newer shooters. I would assume.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever talk to yourself harsher than you would a new shooter?
Constantly.
Then you are doing your new shooter a disservice and you should give them a full refund. You see where I'm going with this?
I do. I absolutely do.
Do you want to finish it for me or do you want me to finish it?
I'll let you do it.
Okay. And this is real simple. And the type A guys are not going to like it, and that's on them. This is not my audience, so you can hate me as much as you want. It's totally fine. Okay. If talking to yourself is the right way to get an improvement, then you are doing your student a disservice, and you should give them a refund.
Oh, but it's absolutely not the right way.
What?
No,
right.
I've been working on this a lot, actually.
Right. And so that means if saying good job, try again is the correct approach for a new shooter, then you are doing yourself a disservice by not saying that to yourself. It's everything is good job, try again.
So this might kind of tie into the giving your conscious mind a job to do, even though the act of practicing is more conscious than the act of exhibiting the skill, right?
Okay,
what I've been trying.
Yeah, hang on. Let me just process that. I say that one more time because the words are important.
So I know that when you're training, when you're practicing, when you're working on something, your conscious mind is more involved because you're trying to make a difference in your skill level, right?
Yep.
But even so, especially when I'm like doing a whole bunch of reps, like in dry fire, where there's not a lot of reset time, or in that virtual reality deal, the ACE, I try to every repetition figure out what I want to tweak for the next one and what I did well,
Okay.
and like give like a little AAR, a little after action review on every rep. And it's real quick. Like it's just, like say today I was pushing for speed, right? So I was doing the steel challenge stages in the VR setup, and I was like really pushing for speed. So I was getting a lot of like, 1 mic out of 5,
Okay.
right? I didn't view that as a failure point as long as I knew where the dot was when I broke the shot.
Okay.
And I could explain to myself, did I time it wrong? Was I a little too fast on the trigger press as the dot was coming into the plate? Or did I maybe not have enough support hand grip so that my dot moved as I pulled the trigger? Did I have my, you know what I mean? Like I try to figure out what I need to, and not in a negative way, but like, this is what I'm working on. This is how I make it better.
I want you to try something for me.
Okay.
So the next time you do this, I want you to say next time I will, as opposed to stating the problem. Just try it.
Okay. No, I like that.
So let's make a rule. The next time you do Ace VR, the only way you're allowed to comment after a run is next time I will. That's it.
I like that.
I
like that.
Okay, so let's say you pull up a ham sandwich. It happens. Next time I will get a proper grip on the gun. And we're done here. Like we just fixed it. Right? Like this one. This guy here. Next time I will see the magazine touch the mag well. Right? Next time I will. So one of the things we teach in mental management is the mental reshoot after every performance, which is why I was so happy to hear you say that. Have you done the mental management class?
I have not.
That's
not, and I'd like to. Yeah.
So great. So we teach a mental reshoot. And the mental reshoot is where you compare your run with your visualization and you eliminate the differences. Right? And you're only allowed to grade your performance as great, okay, or needs work. Okay, there's no dumpster fire. There's nothing of the sort. It's either great. Oh, and we use written criteria because if you don't use written criteria, everybody gravitates towards needs work every time because we think that's what we're supposed to do. And if they're Asian, unfortunately, they set up shop, they buy a mortgage, and they live there. Needs work, needs work, needs work, needs work. Okay.
So should I write out those criteria for myself, like, and just have that as like a document?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. But like, let's say you're running Steel Challenge. Are you working with a part-time?
Yes.
Like, do you have a goal?
What I try to do, and this is something else I like about the VR setup, is I can see what would be a GM run after every time I do it.
Mm-hmm.
I am not right now concerned with personal bests on anything I'm doing in there.
Okay.
What I want consistent GM hit factors on everything.
Okay.
So I'm looking for more consistency, not at the top of my, like, not at personal best skill necessarily, although I certainly won't turn that down. But I want to hit that standard at a very consistent level instead of having it be like an occasional thing or even a most of the time thing.
Okay, so what percent of the time do you think you're doing it?
I mean, obviously it varies on the stage.
Ballpark.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Ballpark.
Probably, I would say the easier stages between 50 to 75% of the time. Some of the really easier runs for me, I can get the majority of the time.
Perfect. So
and the ones that are harder are like, under 50%, but not where it's impossible, not where I'm like off the rails.
Perfect. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do this, but probably not going to do it.
Oh, I like that challenge. You gave me a challenge. I like that.
I knew that would work. So the next time you practice it, every time you meet that standard, I want you to make a note on what you think contributed to your ability to do it.
Okay.
And every time you don't, I want you to say, next time I will, and go back to the thing that you said you need to do.
I like that.
I promise you your percentage will go up. I promise you. Okay. So let's say you're going to do it 10 times and I'm one up, one down. Like I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. But every time you're out, you go back to your last in and you read what you wrote. Okay. But you have to ignore the ones that you didn't get right. You have to. And that's what's going to be hard for you. Okay. And that means you don't write down anything until you get it right. You only say next time I will. And then the first time you get it right, you write down whatever you think. And by the way, this can't be wrong. Whatever you think contributed to that one getting it right, just write it down very, very quickly in your own handwriting. Okay. And then do it again. If you do it again, say, okay, was it the same thing that got it last time or was it different? If you think it's different, write it down. Okay. And then you miss one. Oh, okay. No big deal. Next
time I will.
Yeah. And then you get the fourth one right. Oh, I did these things. And you're going to find your percentage going way up because now you're keeping track of what's working instead of what's not working. Like, think about it. It's really weird. Shooters love to keep a running record of what's not working. Like, why are we doing that? You know?
Oh, and it's the worst. And I find myself doing it too. And I try really hard to do a more positive behavior than this. Next time I will be more positive than this.
So
but we all love to talk about our mistakes after a run.
Not me. I'm
sure.
Not me. Me, it's next time I will.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Dude, next time I will.
I went to my first Steel Challenge match in over a decade and I was scared to death. I felt like 5 books, 10 years of podcasts, a decade of teaching on the road. I felt like my entire career was on trial at a local Steel Challenge match. I was scared to death. So I made a decision. I'm going to put the dot in the middle of every target. What if? I can't control any of those things. But I can. No amount of rust, Matt, can prevent me from putting the dot in the middle of the target. I can always do that. So you see how I define success within my control?
Yep.
Like, my job is to go to the Steel Challenge match, put the damn dot in the middle of the target. And I can always do that. And my ability to do that, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt because you're going about something important here. But my last weekend, I shot the Texas IDPA state championship.
Dude, my buddy Milas was in mental management and took second place.
Yeah. No, he's a good shooter. So
fun to be around.
I ganked my calf horribly on the first sprint of the first stage.
Ouch. Yep.
And couldn't run the rest of the match.
Yep.
I had to limp through every stage. I could kind of like limp quickly, but that was as good as I could do, right?
Sure.
And I made a decision right then and there. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. I knew my results were going to be bad. There's no way around it.
So you accepted the results. Good.
And I said, my job for the rest of the day is to shoot zeros with a sense of urgency. And if I make a mistake, my job is to correct the mistake for the next stage and do it all over again.
Okay. I love all of that except the part about the mistake.
Yep. So I just got to reframe it a different way.
You know you're gonna do it. You don't need to mention it. Okay. So number one, I think the urgency is built in. I don't think you can shoot an IDPA stage slow if you tried. Right. And
I usually err on the other side of the problem, actually.
Right. And what I think you should do, so shooting zeros is an interesting idea. I make magic with IDPA shooters because I let them experience that shooting zeros doesn't have to be slow. Now,
yeah.
So shooting zeros, as long as that doesn't cause you to consciously slow down, I love it. And check this out. That would also be your job if you didn't hurt your leg.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd just be able to move faster.
Right.
Now, a buddy of mine, so really good USPSA and IDPA shooter. He's got bright things in his future, right? You know, significantly younger than me, really good guy. His wife took top lady at IDPA state, actually.
Right.
Both great people, great shooters. He was 10th in the match. He had a couple bad stages, but he's really good at the mental game. And his job he gave himself was to simply call every shot and watch the dot left.
What's his
And
name?
I'll tell you afterwards. Well, but he's a really good guy. Chris and Samantha Harris.
I don't know if I know him. Okay.
So
So let's just talk about that real quick. He has now given himself a job within his control. Like that's a thing he can do.
Yeah.
He may not know how to win the match, but he does know how to call every shot.
Yeah. Well, he's within us to win the match. Like he's got a real bright future ahead of him, like I said.
So,
and I really like the way he did it. And we talked about it like at the end of the match. The stages where he was able to subconsciously follow that goal of his, he just rocked it.
okay.
Like he just
hang on. You don't really subconsciously follow a goal.
Maybe I phrased it the wrong way, but
well,
he was able to shoot subconsciously because he consciously followed that goal.
Yes. See, there's three variables here, and we got to use the right terms for the right variable, because if the radiator doesn't have any water and I'm talking about the fan belt, I ain't gonna get it fixed, right? So we got to make sure we're talking about the right system, right? People throw these words around, and it's so specific. Right? Like if I'm going in for surgery, I need to know that my doctor agrees that this is a leg and this is an arm. Otherwise, he's gonna, you know what I mean? Like words mean things. So what he did was, so the conscious mind doesn't know how to do anything. It learns how to do things. It teaches the subconscious. Like the conscious mind reads the manual and then shows subconscious how to do it, because subconscious can't read. Okay.
Right.
And then the conscious mind moves on to titties and beer. Like he's going to go do something else. This guy's got it figured out. Okay. The problem is, if we think about a subconscious skill in competition, this guy has to learn to do might as well use my tattoo. I forgot I had it. The conscious mind trains the subconscious. Oops, sorry. Shut my chair. And informs the self-image. Okay. The self-image acts as a filter for my subconscious skill.
Is that three different variations of the Van Halen logo in your circles?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that. I thought it was.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. This is the only mental management tattoo in existence, confirmed by Lanny Basham. And when your self-image is strong, performance is fire, because you have a straight line from subconscious skill to performance. See, self-image is always a filter for subconscious skill. Okay. Self-image says, are we good at this? And you're like, damn right, we're good at this. Let's go.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
And I'm going to kind of open myself up bare for all the listeners and viewers out there, because I think ego just gets in the way of this anyway. I don't mind admitting this.
No. But go ahead, because we need to talk about ego for just a second.
So I think I have given myself a self-image problem when it comes to major matches.
Of course you have.
And major matches alone.
Yep.
I'm just fine in training. I'm just fine teaching classes. I know I'm fine in the real deal, even though I'm retired. I don't do that anymore. But I find two things happening at major matches.
Okay.
I will do really, really well on a stage because I shot in that flow state and just did a fantastic job. And then the next stage I'll push.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll make a mistake on a stage, and then all of a sudden I start making a series of mistakes in the match.
Dude, okay. You're not. So, number one, can I just tell you that you look exactly like a semi-retired Sammy Hagar? Do you ever get that? Did people ever tell you that?
No, I've never gotten that, but my feelings aren't hurt by it. That's for sure.
Look at Sammy Hagar's Instagram. You kind of look like Sammy Hagar. Now, so check this out. Stage one, you shot really well, right? Why the hell did you decide to push on stage two? Like, what were you thinking?
Well, that's just it. Is I I know intellectually that that's not the way to repeat the results of stage one. I know that.
Here's some. Number one, it probably felt kind of slow, and that scares you because you're probably already worried about being slow. Number two, asking yourself to achieve a flow state, you don't know how to get into the flow state on demand. When you do, it's kind of a happy accident. So you're giving yourself a job you don't know how to do.
Okay.
The next opportunity is after these, let's call them flow state stages. Do you have have you written down what you were thinking and feeling prior to every flow state performance?
I have not written it down. I've done a lot of thinking about it. But I haven't. Yeah, I need to write it down. Okay, gotcha.
Right? Like if a beautiful woman, you're married, it's a bad example. If a single man goes out and four pretty girls give him their phone numbers, is he going to remember four phone numbers? I mean, that's important information. He'd be like, oh, 6. Oh, this one had an 8 in it. He's got nothing. He's got nothing.
I'm pretty sure one was 867-5309, but
that's Jenny. I think it's Jenny.
It's Jenny, yeah.
So
that is Jenny. That's Jenny's number.
But think about this, dude. Shooters tell me I'm willing to do anything to win. I say, okay, let me see your journal. Oh, I'm not doing that. Well, wait a second. Isn't that included in anything? Like, isn't that in there? Right? Hang on 1 second. Hey, Matt, are you down here? No, he's not cutting the grass. I would go get my journal, but I have to hobble because I'm still on crutches. But so like,
and see, I have been keeping one, but obviously I'm not keeping the right things.
If you're recording mistakes in your journal, throw it in the trash.
I'm trying to phrase things in positive ways when I write them down. Like I am trying to do that.
It's not an effort, Matt. It's a decision. And if you don't like the word positive, use the word productive because you hate being positive, but you love being productive, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
So change the word. Change it to productive. Change it to a productive imprint instead of, because your kind of person hates positive imprints. But a productive imprint is actually better anyway. And so think about the difference. If I'm stuck in the woods, I could be positive and I could make myself into a teepee and pray for rescue. That's very positive. I'm going to die.
Yeah, it ain't going to work.
Right. And your people know that. But what would be productive? Productive would be making shelter, making fire, getting food, getting water. That's productive. And a productive course of action is way better than a positive course of action. Way better.
I like that. Yeah, I'm taking that for sure.
Right? So if I have a fundamental problem, a productive imprint would be pull the trigger straight. Whereas, hey, you idiot, don't do that is not productive. Like that's not productive. Okay. Now, so the opportunity that shooters have is, every way you've ever trashed a stage, like that.
Oh, yeah.
What you don't know is what are you doing when you get it right? You don't know that because you're documenting the bad ones and you're not documenting the good ones. See, it's starting to make some sense, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Now, yeah. The problem, that's not a problem. In the tactical world, when somebody screws up, somebody dies. Right? So that needs to be studied to a greater extent than hitting the no shooter, missing a popper. So this is not like we could talk about that, but still we need a solution, don't we? Like even if somebody dies, don't we need a solution?
Well, and that's one of the things that, and the police world tends to not get this right because they don't want to ever speak ill of the dead, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
But they're looking at it the wrong way. The military side of things, especially special operations, understands that it's not speaking ill of your friend to learn the lessons he died to teach you.
Uh-huh.
Right?
My point is in any environment, and I mean any, we need to turn the problem into a solution as quickly as possible. Like the quicker we turn a problem into a solution, the better off we are.
One of my favorite and I stole this from somebody else. One of my favorite phrases is fail quickly.
Sure, I guess. Yeah.
No, because you're gonna fail, right? So when you fail quickly and learn from it and correct it.
I mean, I'm not going to fail every time. If you want to, that's cool. I don't intend to.
No, I don't mean every time, but you understand what I'm saying. Like no. You're going to, at some point, something's going to go wrong.
Oh yes, of course. Some point for sure.
And when it goes wrong, let it go wrong quickly and course correct and do the right thing.
Right. And what I'm just telling you, marriage, shooting, any relationship, people want to fixate on the problem. And the longer you fixate on the problem, the more you know about how to create the problem. Right? My next relationship is going to be the best relationship of my entire life because it will not be with somebody who can't get to the solution quickly. Right?
That's what I was trying to say, is getting to the solution quickly. Yeah.
Fine. So your personality, you're at a slight risk for being overinformed. Like it's possible for guys like you that are so smart to literally know too much, right? Because if you take practice and say, okay, the plyometric mechanics of this mean I need to bundle together, I need to bundle together. You need to practice your reloads. And then you need to do them moving. And then you need to do them forwards. And you need to do them backwards. Because a certain kind of person will go, have I built the Lego blocks of my blocking and learning correctly? I don't know. Whereas I'm over here practicing reloads. And I'm not suggesting you're wrong. I'm just suggesting I'm going to do more reps than you while you're worried about your Lego bundling blocks. Because the key to all this is reps. And remember, this all started with me getting an electric guitar and wanting to make Van Halen noises. That's how this all started. I didn't keep track of when I didn't make a Van Halen noise. Like I didn't go, oh, I held the pick wrong. But when I played Ain't Talking About Love, when I got that right, I did it again immediately. And then I said, oh, when I get it right, I'm holding the pick this way and my palm is hitting the string in a certain way. That's what it needs to sound like. The failures are just discarded in favor of a new rep.
I just had a realization.
Musicians don't practice their mistakes.
Well, no, when I need to fix something, I identify what I need to fix and I think about what happened that was wrong in detail. I'm not spending that same amount of time focusing on what got me a better result.
This is going to change your life, bro. Like it's going to change your entire shooting career. Why do you need a detailed record on making a mistake? Why do we need to study? Oh, we don't need to study any of that stuff. Now, in the tactical world, a complicated operation, maybe. I can't speak on that. But if we're talking about gun handling and shooting, why would you study a mistake? You should study the solution. Dude, you're going to make so much more money teaching, you need to send me some royalty checks. Like, this is a game changer. The biggest problem you're going to have is, so like, you see how long it's taken me to win you over? It's taken me 2 hours for me to win you over on this.
Yeah, we have gone for 2 hours on a 1 hour podcast.
I love it. I love it. It's a good one. You're going to have to do this with every type A knuckle dragon meathead you have in your class, like every single one. And you're going to have to make them do it. And then they're going to have to have a big win. And then they're going to like it.
Well, I tell you what, I have got an entire agency for 5 days next week. Yeah. I'm going to report back to you after the 5 days and let you know how it went.
Let's do it. And so let's write down some ground rules. Okay.
All right.
You have pen and paper?
I do not in front of me, no, because I'm in my little mock studio here.
Can you type it in? Can we use the chat function?
I can put it on my phone.
Okay. Rule number 1.
All right.
Let's call it diagnose and delete. And that means get to solution as quickly as possible and only discuss solution. That's it. That's job number 1. We only discuss the solution. Okay.
All right.
And by the way, bad shots are only sight or trigger. That's it. They can't be anything else. So if there's a bad shot Ask your shooter, sight or trigger.
Yeah,
Okay.
either you pull the trigger when the sights aren't where they're supposed to be, or you move the sights away from where they were supposed to be when you pull the trigger. That's it.
Right. It can't be anything else. They want to say it's grip, and grip affects the speed at which you can do that, but it doesn't affect the shot in the vast majority of cases. The next thing you're going to do is only productive imprints. So solution, correction, only productive imprints. Where's your class? Is it in Texas somewhere?
Yeah, it's local.
Okay. So I would love it if you would let me come in and do, like, depending on schedule, like I would love to teach you how to do this in real time. It would be so much fun.
Oh, I'd be down for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I assume the people you're working with are still in a life-saving situation.
Yes.
So I would love to use this to help save lives. I really would. Because check this out. God has given me a new chance at life, right? And I believe that we're on this earth to learn things and spread God's love. So if I could use my love of life to help save lives, I'd be totally down for that.
Yeah, after the podcast, we'll talk. We'll set something up for sure. I'd be very happy to do that with you.
And it'd be an interesting experiment, right? Because it would be kind of fun to maybe, I don't know, just for fun, treat some of them this way and some of them that way, and just kind of see, you know what I mean? I just think it'd be fun. Who knows? I might learn something.
Well, I think we should always be learning something, right? No matter how good you are.
The definition of success, man. So remember, just yesterday, I learned I have a right to be respected even if I've made a mistake. Like, that's huge. For 50 years, I didn't know that. I just assumed if I made a mistake, I get whatever's coming to me. I didn't know I had a right to respect after a mistake. I had no idea.
And it's a pretty important thing to learn, I think.
Well, so imagine this. Consider the fact that a guy who's been divorced 3 times didn't think he had a right to respect after a mistake. And it's a wonder that my last wife lost respect for me. Like, imagine that. Because I didn't think I deserved it after a mistake. So of course I behaved that way. So of course she loses respect for me. And once you lose respect in a marriage, you are never going to get it back, ever.
No, it's done. Respect is as important, I think, as love in a relationship.
I think they're the same. You know, now you can respect somebody without loving them, but you can't truly love them without respecting them.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree completely.
When people take the mental management class, they pay $350 for How to Win the Olympics. Okay.
Motion detected at the doorbell.
If you could buy How to Win the Olympics for $350, what percentage of that system would you use?
All of it.
You'd think so, right? But nobody does. I would say maybe 10% of people that take this class use all of it. I mean, literally, this is literally not how one guy did it, but how a dozen people won the Olympics. Okay. And they use like some of it. It's bizarre. The first thing they won't do is write down when they're successful. Like, they won't do it. And
all right, for my audio only audience here, I want to point out that the journal says, "May the shred be with you."
Yeah.
Which I approve of, both from a music and a science fiction geek standpoint. So 2 thumbs up there.
This actually, I believe it's about snow skiing. So this is Performance Analysis, the ultimate performance journal. Okay. Notice it doesn't say list of mistakes or list of ways Steve screwed up today. It doesn't say that. It says performance. I want to know about performance. Now, I don't want you to say it out loud, but think about the normal thoughts you have after training, and think about this. It's interesting. I was away from my gun for about a month, and this is all about things I learned about relationships. That is new things I learned about relationships. Dude, I'm 50 years old. And I'm writing a book after my 3rd divorce about relationships. Okay. Okay. All right. So think about how you feel after practice and think about how I feel after practice. Okay. This is the only documentation I have of this dry fire session. I don't remember this day. Okay. Event, daily dry fire. Date 3/5/25. Location bedroom. Conditions bedroomy. Design and execute core steel challenge dry fire drills. So my objective is to design and execute dry fire drills. Am I guaranteed to be successful?
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to do that. Like I'm already successful. Okay. My mental system is at 98%. My technical system is at 98%. Today, I learned my surrender draw is sheer fire and subconsciously reliable. Great draws were 99%, and quiet eye is very helpful. Today, I learned that I can get my support hand on the gun sooner. Okay.
Motion detected at the doorbell.
Today, I learned that I can hear a 0.5 par time and beat it with rimfire. Today, I had 99% great draw, so I see 99% is there again. Okay. So when this guy goes to the match, he's expecting 99% great draws because he just did it.
I want to ask about something you just said.
Sure.
That's okay.
Sure.
Because I've heard this term before, but I don't know if everybody has. Can you explain what you meant about the quiet eye?
Yeah. Quiet eye. So there's two benefits to it. Busse and her book Smart Move, which by the way, I think everybody should have that book. There's some tactical stuff in there too. So quiet eye means, let's see, you can't see what I'm seeing. Tell me what you can see here on the wall. Can you see John Wick?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to look at his head until you don't see anything else.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
Took some time, didn't it? Did you feel your face relax a little bit when you did?
I did.
Uh-huh. So that's the quiet eye.
One of the things that I do notice that I do before a good stage is I'll have exactly that feeling looking at either the center of either the A or down zero on my first target or the first place my feet have to go.
Is that written down somewhere?
Motion detected at the doorbell.
Are you doing it 100% of the time?
No, and it will be written down somewhere moving forward.
If it was written down, you'd be doing it 100% of the time because you'd get tired of reading it and you just start flipping doing it. Right? Okay. Let's see. Today, I did the work that others will not. Today, I had sub-second first shots on everything with good sight pictures. Today, I crushed it. This guy's got to go up. This guy's got a match to go to. Okay. Check this out. I have the best mental game in the world. You know why?
I like how it's in Sharpie too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was taught by the guy that we'll say it, invented the mental game. So if he taught me what he knows and he's starting to suffer a little bit of mental decline, which he is, that means Steve Anderson has the best mental game in the world. Okay. This is after a match. I shoot my best when I'm bored. My lazy stare is Cobra-like.
Motion detected at the doorbell.
Today, I learned to buy match rimfire ammo. Like I didn't know that 40 degrees was bad for rimfire ammo. I had no idea because I've never competed in a rimfire sport before. Right. Okay. Today, I learned to shoot bored and was able to quiet eye all day. So quiet eye is now in here twice. Okay. Today, I learned that yawning produces the boredom that makes me a Cobra. So literally, I learned in Steel Challenge, I modified my draw because when I started practicing, I was really tense and rigid. I'm missing my grip a bunch. So I learned to do what I call a marionette. And I know it looks kind of weird, but I don't care because it produces great draws. So instead of this, I turn myself into a marionette, okay, like a puppet, okay? And then it makes me it forces me to relax, which makes me faster. Remember that thing you were saying about tension being a barometer? Yep. Yeah, I learned the same thing. So I learned that my marionette, and I try not to make it look quite so gay, but my marionette makes me faster. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. So
Motion
check this
detected
out.
at the doorbell.
So this is my second steel challenge match. I did not win this one. Oh, actually, I did win it. Let me go back to that. Today, I was within 2 seconds of a steel challenge master. And this is after 10 years with zero live fire training of any kind. This is dry fire and mental game. Put me within 2 seconds of a master class shooter. That's a productive imprint. Okay. I didn't fail 3%. I succeeded 97%. And that's the other thing I want you to start doing, Matt. If you're looking at percentages, it's your percentage of perfection, not the inverse percentage of failure. Okay. Today, I impressed the peanut gallery on several occasions with my current level of skill. So that means they're like, ooh, Anderson's up. We need to go watch that. And I got some oohs and ahs. It was pretty great. Today, I prepared well for chilly weather. Today, I had smooth, precise draws by being bored and yawning. Today, I trusted my speed and got 100% of my current level of skill. So I came in second place, and I'm happy. I'm super happy. Okay.
Motion detected at the doorbell.
Today, I quiet-eyed the shit out of this match. Today, I produced a winning performance with a new proven process. I know how to do this every time. And with all due respect, my friend, you do not know how to do it every time.
Oh yeah, I'm not.
You're treating it like a happy accident when you flow or whatever you want to call it. So don't use terms that you can't duplicate. Does that make sense?
It does. It
Flow.
absolutely does.
Like so like most of the mental game advice, and it's not just you, it's everybody. People don't know what it means. Like they're saying things and they're not wrong, but like, what does that mean? And you're not going to hear anybody but me and Joey Sauerland talk about subconscious performance. So think about it. The whole world, I shoot my best when I'm not thinking. I'm over here going subconscious, right? I don't know. I'm not thinking. We have to define it.
Motion detected at the doorbell.
You can't duplicate it until you can define it. If I can define it, I can duplicate it. So people, they tell me, so let me ask you another question. If this was a document of every best stage and match of your life, how much would you pay for it?
It'd be priceless.
Just 50 minutes. Would you pay $1,000 for that? You pay 500, 100?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can't buy it in dollars. You pay for it in minutes. You earn, right? Of all the bad things that have happened to me, like almost dying, being injured, I've only getting divorced. I've only panicked 3 times, and all 3 times when I thought I lost this book. Because this book contains the shooter and the man that I want to be. And there's details in here that I might forget. Right? So I literally helped. So I literally helped someone make several life-changing decisions with mental management. Like I have this friend who was a warrior, okay, and is now a father. And he's like, I need to let go of the warrior because it's killing me. However, as a father, some of these things are useful. Like I might need some of these skills. So I don't want to let them go. They're trying to let go of the warrior. And I said, this is so simple. Don't let go of the warrior. Choose to be a father every day, and the warrior will support you. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, right? Because you can't kill the warrior that's inside you, right? But you can choose to be a father very consciously every day. And now the warrior supports you being a father. Same thing with a husband. Like if a guy's having a hard time, oh, look who it is. You're going to love this. Hey, Kita Busse, how are you?
Hey, my phone wasn't working.
Hang on. I'm currently on a podcast with Matt Little. Do you know him?
Oh,
We've met. Yeah, we've met. How are you, Kita?
You are literally on the phone now. You are on Matt Little's podcast right now.
Oh, hi, Matt.
Hey, Kita, how have you been? I haven't talked to you in a long time.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
It has. We were talking about your book, just so you know, it's sitting on my bookshelf.
Oh, yeah. I was so impressed with your knowledge, and I know you wrote an excerpt for me, and I was considering including it, but it just didn't seem to fit anywhere.
No,
So
don't. It's fine. It doesn't. That doesn't upset me at all. Don't worry about that.
But it did motivate me in a lot of what I was writing.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. That means more to me than it being included, to be honest.
You what?
That means more to me than it being included, to be honest.
Motion detected at the doorbell.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm really sorry I didn't include it because it was really great stuff. It was just almost well, in my writing, it's like I already covered so much of those things because we agreed on so much that there just wasn't really a place for it.
And by the way, Matt, I just want you to know the fact that she is calling during your podcast. By the way, that's the only phone call I would take during your podcast, just because I know it's relevant. These things are happening to us all the time. Like, we literally got her daughter an internship with Lanny Basham while sitting in her kitchen. Like, it was the craziest thing. Like, these things are happening all the time. It's bizarre.
It's very cool, though. Absolutely.
So, Kita, we're just talking about the journal and how self-image provides access to skill. And I was telling him that you have an enhanced understanding now of allowing a technique to be subconscious by thinking about something else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've learned a lot from talking with Steve, for sure. Just like I learned a lot from talking with you, Matt. I'm just a sponge. I'm an absorber of knowledge.
You know, I have a soft spot for that worldview. We were just talking about how important it is to keep learning until the day you die. Steve and I were talking about that a minute ago.
Yeah, really? And I just said that?
And Kita, he and I have, like, I've been catching him using different words than mine. Like, that's been the theme of this podcast, because he'll talk about, thinking a subconscious thought, and like, I see. So tell him a little bit about how you were not into my rigidity on terms, and then you kind of came around or changed your opinion.
Well, so I think Matt has a really diverse background, and he knows a lot of things from a lot of places, and each one of those has different terminology that you become used to.
That's a good point.
I have kind of the same thing.
Excellent.
So it's not that I was judging your terminology or saying it was wrong, but coming from, I said this earlier today, coming from sort of a scientific background, I hear something and I have to kind of critique it. Criticize, critique, I don't feel like are the right words. I think I used a better word earlier. Can't think of it. But it's kind of a scientific thing where you hear something and you think, oh, that could make sense. But before you allow it to make sense, you have to find out more about it.
Interesting.
So it's not that I wasn't taking what you said as correct. It's that I had to understand why it's correct.
What I meant more specifically was you were kind of irritated by my insistence on using certain words. Are you talking about the same thing or something a little different?
No, I'm talking about the same thing.
Oh, okay. So you wanted to make sure that my insistence on using the right words was valid. I got you.
Right. I had to make sure it was valid. Okay. Not that I didn't think it was, I just had to understand it.
Yeah, see, Kita is really big on treating the individual as a holistic individual. And I am too, right? But when it comes to the mental game specifically, everybody's the same. And the problem specifically is everybody thinks they're different. Like, that's the problem. Everybody thinks they're so smart and so special that they can have negative imprints. They can constantly control speed. Like, they think, okay, that's for dumb people, but I'm really smart, so I can handle. And Matt, you'd be in this category. You would be the one who would say, I can totally handle negative imprints because I'm a badass. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
No, I don't think. Oh, maybe, but I think he's a little more scientific minded, kind of like I am.
Oh, I've been talking to him for 2.5 hours now. I know him pretty well.
Podcast for 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we've been on a 1-hour podcast for 2.5 hours.
Okay.
And this is my second 2.5 hour podcast of the day.
Well, I'm curious, Matt, what did you think when you heard these terms that maybe you hadn't heard before, or maybe you'd heard in different ways?
So I'd already kind of done my homework because I've been trying to work on my mental game recently anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'd kind of already done a bit of the evaluation process. I'd already kind of followed that, that scientific method way of looking at it and trying to kind of like figure it out. What I found fascinating was like, I mean, obviously I've read Basham's book and I've read, some of the other stuff that's out there for sports psychology and all of that. But talking with Steve, and I've trained with Steve before, but it was a long time ago. It was more on dryfire at the time, more than on this.
Yeah, same.
So in talking to Steve today, what I found is greater detail on things that I've been reading the overall concepts, but the devil's in the details. So I'm finding out minutia, and I don't mean minutia in a negative way at all, but like everything has kind of nuance to it, right? And I know that Steve's big on making it simple, but even simple things have nuance and they have context. And I'm getting the nuance and context I did not get from reading the book.
Not only that, but what Lanny told me the third time I called him with a problem, and it was a self-image problem every single time. He said, "Why haven't you taken a class?" And I said, "Well, I got this book." He goes, "Well, obviously the book can't answer a question because you keep calling me." And isn't it fascinating, Matt? Okay, just you're still competing, right?
Yes.
What is your just ballpark your so your wife's not listening, she might hear it later. Just ballpark your shooting budget for me for competition. How much money?
That might not be a fair question to ask Matt right now.
Just ballpark it.
No, that might not be a fair question to ask right now.
I'm honestly not sure at the moment, to tell you the truth, because like
okay, ballpark. Is it $5,000? Is it $10,000? Is it $3,000?
Oh yeah. No, it's I'm sure it's $10,000 a year
on a show.
$10,000, right? $10,000 your budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what percentage of your shooting is mental?
Oh, I see where this is going. Probably 90% of it.
Okay, here's the deal. I don't need Matt. I don't need $9,000. I need $350 in your trust in how to win the Olympics. And then I need, on top of your training, I need 15 minutes a day. That's it.
Point well taken.
So check this out, dude. I had a class on how to do a journal that cost $100 that comes with a $200 gift certificate for Hunters HD Gold. So they make $100 when I take the class. I had 4 people sign up. Oh, and this particular class included Kita Busse, and 4 people signed up. 4.
Can I interject something about the words? Something
Yes.
I told you earlier, Steve?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Matt, I had this guy that I was coaching in shooting, and he was really interested in this girl. And like, I saw the vibe and I was like, dude, you gonna ask her out? What's going on here? So he did. And then he was trying to send her a message, but he wasn't, he wanted it to be worded just right. because he wanted to be encouraging and supportive and help her keep going on that right path. So it was really interesting. And this is something I noticed after talking to Steve, that I helped him find the right words. And he did. And she loved it, by the way. And he won. But I said to him, wow, I really get it now how much those words matter. Because you wanted those words to be just right for that girl, to inspire her, to get her to keep going, to get her to be better, do better, keep doing what she's doing. Those words were really important to you. And he said, yeah. And I said, so how much more important is that for you to write those kind of words to yourself in your journal? And I really the importance of the words. As frustrated as I sometimes get with Steve, he was right.
I was right.
The words matter.
And Matt,
so here's a thought on that, right? And I didn't come up with this. An author named Robert Heinlein said this. He said there's a common misconception that English is a language where there's a bunch of words that mean the same thing. And that is not true.
Oh, that's completely not true. Holy moly.
English is a language where there's a myriad of words that mean almost the same thing. And which one you pick is important, and it does matter. So yeah, I'm tracking. I'm picking up what you guys are putting down.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
And so like a word that I hate is logistics. Because I don't know what logistics. I think it's trucks and warehouses. I'd rather talk about trucks and warehouses than logistics. You know
I can tell you my favorite sentence with the word logistics in it.
Yeah.
Although it's actually logisticians is actually the word. Rommel from World War II. Tacticians win battles, but logisticians win wars.
So trucks and warehouses?
Yeah, trucks and warehouses.
Oh, say that. Trucks and warehouses win wars. So like, okay, so here's an interesting thing that I did. I made my first record when I was 15. Okay, good old fashioned bare knuckle rock and roll. And then I decided to learn music theory. Okay, music theory is wonderful. But Chuck Berry said very famously, if you take rock and roll to school, you kill it. And that's what I did. I took rock and roll. And now I was making musically correct compositions that were nowhere near as good as AC/DC, because AC/DC is freaking cool, right? It's not diatonically correct, but it's great. So when things can be simple, and you and Keita are so smart, and sometimes simplicity is the thing. That's why the classes that we do are called Science and Simplicity. She handles the science, I handle the simplicity, right? Oh, Keita, you should have seen him when I told him he doesn't have to have positive imprints if he can have productive imprints. It was like Christmas.
What did you say?
I said he doesn't need to have positive.
Not you.
Oh.
What did you say?
About which?
When I told you they don't need to be positive.
Matt, you were trying to say something. You said, "Oh, Keita," and then Steve started talking at the same time, and I was curious to hear what that was.
I was the one talking, Keita. That was me.
Oh,
it was. Yeah, it was, Steve.
Because I'm on Also, frickin' Steve, you duped me into 2 podcasts in one day.
Right. And you're supposed to be on a break.
Me being on a podcast break, like I broke up with podcasts.
I hate to break it to you, Keita, but now that we've talked again in years, you've got to come on mine.
It's so much work. And
it's not
like
work.
You're doing it.
It's work for me. For you, it's just having a conversation about the stuff you like to talk about anyway.
Right.
Like you literally called me like you did no work. You're on a podcast. Like it's so easy.
No, I'm saying I want her on as a guest for her own podcast. On my podcast. On my podcast. I want her on as a guest on my podcast, separate from this. A different episode.
She'll totally do that.
Right. This is your podcast, Matt.
Yes. Yes.
Wandering on here?
You're like a little lost, just like a lost child in the store.
I wandered in. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're a welcome addition. No worries.
I told you it was his podcast when I answered the phone. You probably just didn't hear me correctly.
Yeah, you did. I just didn't register because I was calling you.
I know. And Matt, the only other phone call I would take during your podcast would be Lanny Basham. So that's the only reason I took the call, was I thought it would be great to talk to her.
No, and either one of these are a welcome addition to it. But I'm going to hold you to that, Keita. I want you to come on as a guest on my podcast. We'll talk about it when we stop recording. Speaking of which, so Steve, I would love to have you on for round 2 if you're willing, when your schedule frees up again.
Anytime.
But we probably should bring this to a closing point. Why don't you let everybody out there know, not because I want to stop talking, just because I'm literally out of time. Why don't you let everybody out there know how to take a class, how to get a hold of you, all that good stuff.
All right. So here's the deal. The mental management class is 3, and you guys are both very smart. Help me explain this correctly. I'm going to pick a day, a series of weekdays. They're usually Wednesdays or Thursdays, and it's going to be 3 consecutive Wednesdays or Thursdays. All right. So it's going to be Wednesday, Wednesday, Wednesday. Okay. You're committed to those 3 days. Inside of those 3 days, you're going to pick a time slot. It'll probably be 1 p.m., 7 p.m., or 9 p.m. When you sign up for the class, you're now signing up for 3 consecutive Wednesdays at one of those time slots. Okay.
And sometimes I might wander in like a lost sheep.
Oh, and if I happen to be at Keita's house at the time, which we don't know whether I will be or not currently, it's really awesome because her participation has gone from sort of too much to too little to just the right amount as she wanders in and out. It's really been fun having her there. And if you want, Matt, here's what I will do for you. I will create.
Thank you for saying it that way.
No, it's been great. It's really been fun watching you like come in thinking, oh, I'm going to put my spin on this, to, oh, I don't know anything about this, to, oh, I can help them understand this. Like, it's really been fun.
Yeah, it's really been a balance, me trying to figure out Steve and like what he teaches and how that fits into what I do. And I think we just have a much better understanding now. So it's more balanced. Just like you, Matt, would come in thinking, well, I don't like those words. But then you learn an appreciation for it as you see it work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the other thing that Keita has learned to do is to let me finish my sentence before she disagrees with me. No, because if she'll let...
No. What are you talking about? No. Oh, are you talking? I'm sorry.
Well played.
And then, so I will create... Do you have a way to poll your audience and find out what days and times would be good? Do you have a way to do that?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. So if you will poll your audience, say, hey, Steve's going to put together a special event for the Littleians, for the Littleonians, for the Littleonians. We're going to put together
Lilliputians.
We're Lilliputians. Find out what weekday is best and what time frame, generally speaking, and I'll put together an event just for the Littleonians, and it'll be great because I'm really interested in the kind of questions I get from tactical people. Like, I know this is the same stuff, but I'm very curious about what questions they have on how to apply it in a more tactical world.
You know, and we alluded to this earlier, and I don't want to go back down the rabbit hole again, but I think it's worth saying again. You explained something I have been wondering about since I first started shooting USPSA and IDP.
Yep.
Why it was easy for me to have the right mental state in the real world and difficult for me in the match.
Yep.
And it makes perfect sense, but I hadn't really made that connection to it being, so it's, and now that gives me, and the way my brain works, and you've also kind of figured this out during the conversation. I think you probably figured it out, 10 years ago when we first met, is that understanding that for me is a big step in the process of making things better.
Yeah.
Understanding the why for me is like a big piece of it. Like that's a crucial piece of it for me.
Yep. You personally are at risk for overcomplicating the simplicity of what you've discovered.
Yes,
Basically,
absolutely.
Swift. Some people will get that, some people won't, but he's basically Jonathan Swift.
I don't know much about Jonathan. Let me tell you this,
I
Matt.
think Matt got that.
I did get that. I read those as a kid.
You are going to, okay, so pre-accepting results can take several forms. In the tactical world, you pre-accepted, I am going to be successful or I'm going to die, and I'm cool with both of those. Okay.
Yep.
In shooting, you've got 4, maybe 5 options. Okay. So think about your next match. These are your options. Okay. I don't care. Are you there?
Yeah, that one probably won't work for me. I have a hard time not caring.
Perfect. Yeah, and you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. Okay. But if you went to go play putt, could you not care?
No.
No.
Okay, good. Great. No problem. Here's the next one. It is what it is. Could you get there?
No.
I was able to this last match because I was injured.
Okay,
That's
so that's
different. But that's different.
okay. And here's the
Wait.
next. Here's the next one.
You know where I want to go. Okay, I'll digress.
The next one is I'll do well. Could you get there?
Yeah.
Okay. The last one is I'm a contender to win. I could win.
I've been there. Yeah, I can get there.
One step above that is I am going to win this match. Now, 1 and 5 cannot be faked. They can't be. Okay. You can't fake not caring, and you can't fake and believing you're going to win. But it is what it is. I'll do well. Those are pretty easy to get to.
Steve, do you have one for being injured?
It is what it is, for sure.
Oh, okay.
For sure, it is what it is. And Matt, those pre-acceptances, that's incredible. Oh, by the way, they must be followed up with process. Any talk about a result must be followed up with process, especially at the upper levels.
Now, I have a question for you based on that, because this is something that I've been kind of thinking of as a potential mental game strategy, right?
Wait, hang on. I have something right there. Okay. I'm going to teach you how to win the Olympics. You don't need a potential mental game strategy.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you if this is an appropriate one based on your knowledge.
Perfect. Go ahead.
I will follow my process.
Right.
So happy.
Right. So Matt and Keita, the reason I was so aggressive there is because he's at risk for doing exactly that. He is at risk for learning how to win the Olympics and then just changing shit, right? Reading a different book and wanting to add or subtract. Mental management does not allow
Because
addition.
he's very smart.
I know. And he always wants things to be better. You can't get better than how to win the Olympics. Now you can execute it better, and you can execute it more fully, and you can write in your journal better, and you can follow your process better. But
you can't outsmart it.
There is no improving how to win the Olympics because he didn't invent it. He discovered it. That's be like saying, oh, gravity. Well, I've got a better gravity over here. No, you don't.
I want to hear his next steps.
Gravity is gravity. Sorry.
What are his next steps?
Matt's next steps?
Yeah, his own that he came up with.
So the first thing
that he came up with, not that. No, compared to, I want to hear what he came up with on his own.
Not only did you take over Matt Little's podcast, but you're now displaying. Yes, you little stinker. Go ahead.
The idea was to learn to focus on the process. Period. Learn to focus on the process, and to get better and better at following the process, regardless of the outcome in the moment.
Process of what? Let's be more specific.
The process of shooting the stage, what I need to do, seeing the sights, pulling the trigger.
But that's not something you need to think about. You know how to pull the trigger. Here's what you need to do. Create a subconscious stage plan with productive imprints,
Yes.
and then put it out in the middle of a target. That's it. That's it. And the reason I jumped in there is because you said follow the process and we hadn't established the task.
No, that makes sense. That makes absolute sense.
And the issue that I have with that is, for example, if you're going to cut the grass, what's the process? Right?
Well, honestly, with my zero turn mower that I just got, it's pretending I'm in the Battle of Hoth from Star Wars.
and
Okay,
Matt, based
Matt,
on
did you have more to your process than that? Did you have more you wanted to say?
So what I was really trying to do was, because I do understand that all the minutia needs to be done subconsciously, right? So the way I was trying to stay focused on the process was literally seeing what I needed to see. Like that was the process for me, was seeing what I needed to see on every target.
but that's not the process. That's the occupation for the conscious mind.
Okay.
And Matt, again, you're so
Can
smart.
you-
Go ahead, Kita.
Can you explain to me the difference between the process and the occupation of the conscious mind?
Absolutely. Process is steps and ingredients. Occupation for the conscious mind is an occupation for the conscious mind for the action phase.
Well, what
So would process then be what I do prior to the stage, kind of almost like as a ritual to set myself up to do what I need to do?
If we're going to use the word process, we don't need to use the word ritual. Let's stick with it here. Okay. Process, steps, and ingredients. Okay. Think of it as steps. Okay. I'm going to arrive at the stage. I'm going to create a subconscious stage with positive imprints. I'm going to surrender to my point of focus, which actually happens a little bit sooner than that, but we'll get to that later. And then when it's over, I'm going to do a mental reshoot in which I reach success or focus only on the correction. That's your process.
And as part of that, it would be like identifying all the targets, looking at where I need to put my feet, looking at like while I'm doing the stage plan, while I'm creating my stage plan.
That's all covered and created a subconscious stage positive imprints. Yeah.
Right.
For example, I'm in an orthopedic boot. So my process for taking a dump or taking a shower has changed. So I have to do things differently than I normally would. It's no longer subconscious. Like I can't go to the bathroom subconsciously right now because my foot's always in different conditions of pain. Normally that would be subconscious. Okay. And Matt, and so Kita, I can tell what she's doing. She hasn't heard the last 2 hours of this conversation, right?
No, I'm just curious.
You have this tendency to relabel things when I need you to label them and leave them labeled.
No, I just wanted to know the difference between the two.
I'm talking to Matt, Kita.
Yeah, no, that was me. That was me.
Okay.
He was saying I do that, and he's not wrong.
And it's only because you're so smart. And so the smarter people are, the more trouble they have with mental management because they want to relabel it and they want to compare it to Buddhism and they want to say, oh, I had a book like that. And my point is, I'm giving you the thing. It doesn't need to be relabeled. It doesn't need to be compared to anything. It's freaking how to win the Olympics, right? And it needs to be respected. It's so cheap. My God, the value is so cheap. I paid Lanny $10,000 for his life work, and it was literally the best investment I have ever made in my entire life.
All I wanted to know was the difference between the two. Like, I'm still not sure what that means.
Okay, so processes, steps, and ingredients. Occupation for the conscious mind is part of the process. It's part of the steps.
So it's part of the process.
Correct.
So I'm genuinely confused.
Okay.
I'm not trying to
look at it this way.
Apart or anything. Like I'm genuinely confused.
No, I know. I'm going to tell you. Okay, you have a recipe, right? For something. Okay, part of that recipe is whisking eggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the occupation for the conscious mind is whisking the eggs.
Okay. So the recipe is the eggs.
No,
and
the recipe.
I'm still confused.
The recipe is the process. So process is recipe.
Okay.
Where I put my feet, what kind of movement technique I use to go from target array to target array. This is the recipe.
Oh yeah.
The recipe.
Well, that's
yeah, but it's part of the recipe. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
It's part of the recipe.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help out and see if I understand it too. Which trigger press I use on a particular target, how much sight confirmation do I need on a particular target? All of that is part of the recipe, but none of that is necessarily what I'm using to keep my conscious mind occupied. Necessarily.
Occupation.
You smart people are making me insane. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Are we making your brain cry and your soul bleed?
No, it's fine. Okay, you guys are
What
so.
is the occupation?
In terms of where it is in the process, or what actually is it?
No, the occupation for the conscious mind. Like, what is that, and how is it different?
So the occupation for the conscious mind is choosing one thing to think about, so that you get
Okay, continue.
So that you get subconscious skill in accordance with your self-image.
So for me, where I'm confused, I think, is that it feels like for me that occupation could be part of the recipe.
Of course. See, guys, we're splitting hairs over terminology here because we're wanting to relabel
I'm
things.
just trying to understand.
No, and you do understand it beautifully. Now, also consider your 6 times concussed brain may work a little bit differently and in ways that I don't understand. But wait a second. Hang on. I just realized something, Kita. You said something very profound. Okay. Matt, she won't remember, but you might. Do you remember when I said you surrender to your singular point of focus earlier?
Yes, I remember.
So what Kita just seized on, and Kita, you're so brilliant despite your broken brain, or maybe because of it, that is not necessarily a singular step. Like, that's kind of a general idea. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you, Kita?
Well, I'm just wondering how a part of the recipe can't be the singular point of focus.
It can be, for sure. And that one's actually really unique because that one can be done out of order. That one can be done when you first get in the car.
Right. I agree.
Like, for example, I can decide to put my dot in the middle of every target before I get in the car, and then I can decide again.
I mean, isn't that part of the recipe?
It absolutely is.
That's where I'm confused.
Well, so the reason we're getting bogged down here is we're trying to process into a recipe, which isn't really necessary. I was just trying to help you to understand it with something that you know, because you're great at following recipes. Oh, you don't use recipes. That might be a problem.
I don't use recipes. I do not.
Then that's a bad example. I forgot that you don't use recipes.
All right, guys, I have to apologize, but I've got to wrap this up.
Okay.
And I also want to talk to you guys offline real quick once we stop recording. So
okay. No problem.
Once again, just because I think we did it, but just to make sure, how does everybody get a hold of you and sign up for a class, Steve, so they can get this?
So here's what happens. You could email me and say, hey, tell me about mental management, or you could just sign up for a scheduled class, which would be so much better, because I don't really have time to tell 10 different people how mental management can help them. They've listened to this podcast. If they want to learn how to win the Olympics, they need to sign up for a scheduled date and time at andersonshooting.com. That's so easy to do. And then, however, if they need a different date and time, that's what they need to tell me. Okay. Say, hey, I need weekends, or hey, I'm in a weird time zone. Because what I have to do is I have to pick the dates and times that I think are most convenient, and I've got it pretty well figured out by now. But literally all they need to do is go to andersonshooting.com, upcoming classes, and sign up for a class. It's so easy. And also, if your listeners want a video review from the great and mighty Her Majesty the Queen, Kita Busse,
I guess that's me.
It's $100. And then they get a $200 800 HD Gold gift certificate. as part of that. So they literally make $100 having her review the video. And Keita, you can do tactical videos too, can't you? Like,
For sure.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, movement is movement, without a doubt. And that's another mistake people have made until recently. So also, both of you guys,
You're
Steve
actually
and Keita,
realize that.
you both have books available on Amazon that I highly recommend. Steve's got the Dryfire Bibles, performance, repetition. Tell me the titles, because I'm losing them.
I love it when people say, man, your books are so amazing. What are they called again?
They're 1, 2, and 3. They're Steve Anderson's 1, 2, and 3. And I got all 3 of them on my bookshelf.
I know. So refinement, repetition.
Refinement and repetition, that's it.
Codified the modern dry fire method. Any dry fire book after that one is derivative of that one. I know, because I've seen them all. And I say that with great pride. Right now everything's hard to buy. Refinement, repetition, because I divorced my shipping manager. That's the current problem, and I'm having to rebuild I'm rebuilding my logistics, Matt. That's what's happening. My plyometric logistics,
trucks and shipments and stuff.
So trucks and warehouses. So within 30 days they'll all be available again. Refinement, repetition should be available on Amazon right now.
And I highly recommend them to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They really are the place to start if you want to start dry firing, without a doubt. And then Keita, you have your book on movement, which is also phenomenal. It's also on my bookshelf. It might be sitting next to Steve's, as a matter of fact. So why don't you talk about that real quick, since you just slid your way into the podcast here, and let everybody know how to get a class with you and buy your book.
Like a lost sheep. So yeah, I have this book called Smart Move, Economy of Motion for the Shooting Sports. Matt Little actually made some comments for me that really helped me see things in a different way. So he was influencing me while I was writing the book. So this book is available on Amazon, but I would much prefer to cut them out. If you want to email at 180firearmstraining@gmail.com. Please order it directly. I will send you a personalized copy. You can go to Amazon, but we don't like to pay the big guy.
Makes sense to me. Absolutely. So both of you, when we stop recording here, Keita, I'd love to talk to you about, getting you to actually be on the podcast as the real guest, the official guest, not just the one that hijacks the show. And Steve, I would love to talk to you about having you on again, and we could definitely do that live event you were talking about if you'd like to. So I'd love to talk to you about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing we should do next time is, you know what? Let's just do whatever the hell we want next time. Yeah, we'll just do that's perfect.
All right, sounds good. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope everybody got as much out of it as I did, because I actually got a lot of things for me to think about in my training today that I'm going to try to put into effect. So I've
got to stop you right there. This is what I worry about with you so much. Okay. What I would love to see you do is turn ideas into actions.
He does.
Keita, we've been at this for yes, he does. But I don't want him to sit in the corner and ponder different words for this. I want him to put his belt on and get to work. And then when he goes to the match, I want him to create a subconscious stage for him with a singular focus. And I want him to shoot the match. And when he gets done, I want him to do a mental reshoot. When he finishes that, I want him to write in his journal. We've talked and thought for 3 hours. It's time to come up with action.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to start the journal tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So, all right. Like I was saying, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode as much as I did. We'll definitely do more of this, and I will talk to everyone out there next time.
And I would say that anything you do for 3 hours has got to be awesome, or you wouldn't do it for 3 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Way is in Training. Please come back again as we explore how training makes us better at our craft and better in our everyday lives. See all of you soon.